outside. No met with employees at the ice processing facility in Broadview, Illinois. Outside, the crowd grew over several hours. Some were riled by newly installed barricades. Johnny Bishop is one of the protesters.
We have done our due diligence to make sure that we are in accordance with the laws.
Arrests were made.
This has been happening for our entire history. And people need to realize that it's not just about fighting against Trump. It's fighting for a more humane immigration system that we all deserve.
I'm Ed Donahue.
And it's going to be a little bit tricky for many Americans to pay their bills in coming years. According to a new study from Goldman Sachs, more Americans now living paycheck to paycheck. 55% expected to be living that way by 2033. More from townhall.com.
You know, life moves fast. Staying sharp, focused, and clear-headed isn't always easy. That's why the same company that brings us Relief Factor has developed something brand new, Think Factor. Think Factor is made to help you think clearer and perform better daily. It's a powerful blend of nutrients that unlock mental clarity and precision, nurture your memory, and boost your attention. With Think Factor, brain power and performance finally meet for lasting daily results. Supercharge your memory and mental sharpness. Your brain is your most valuable asset, powering your creativity, focus, and daily performance. If you're feeling mentally foggy or not recalling things as quickly as you used to, Think Factor could be just what you need to reclaim your cognitive edge. I am so thrilled with the results I personally have received from Think Factor. I'm thinking clearer and better than ever. If you've ever thought, I wish I could be more clear, more focused, try Think Factor today. Call 800-4RELIEF. 800, the number 4RELIEF, or visit relieffactor.com to learn more and order Think Factor. Think Factor. Think clearer.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
The Napoli heritage of fine dining continues with Napoli Kirkwood. Napoli Kirkwood, now open. So add that to Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C. And don't forget about Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district, Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, plus now, open Napoli Kirkwood.
Hi, I'm Helene Tobler, culinary nutritionist at Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Here we do practical wellness. Dr. Randy and I have a common sense approach to healthcare. My passion is helping our members enjoy better nutrition because food is medicine. We approach problems with a lifestyle foundation and cutting-edge medical tool chest. At Body of Health, it's about being your healthiest you. If you want to experience healthcare the way it ought to be, schedule a discovery call today at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris.
How are you, Vic?
I don't want to put anybody else down, but when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that, the stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good, casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that because you can get all the information you need, understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC. The Vic Porcelli Show.
Well, Yom Kippur, wait, it's not Yom Kippur? No, it's not. It's Yom Kippur is over now. Karen Cataline's back Monday at 10:05.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
School bus driver in a traffic jam, staring at the faces in a rearview mirror, looking at the promise of the promised land. One kid dreams of fame and fortune, one kid helps pay the rent. one could end up going to prison. One just might be president.
Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer.
Only in America.
Randy Tobler
Dreaming in red, white, and blue.
on NewsTalkSTL.
Only in America.
Well, good morning and welcome to another busy day on the Tobler Show. Glad to be back with you. Thank you, Jerome, for holding forth the last couple of weekends when I was out, and heard great kudos for your efforts. And of course, there was certainly a lot to talk about with the Comey incident, or the Comey indictment last Saturday. And this Saturday, we have, I guess, the news overnight that is fresh, maybe to many of you, if you were having a life outside of outside of the news cycle, which, by the way, is important to do from time to time. Extricate yourself. The Gaza agreement that is, until 6 p.m. tomorrow night is still in the balance, but at least initial a look by Hamas. Trump already wanting to take a victory lap yesterday evening, saying that, we're on the precipice of this victory, and this will be the greatest peace deal in a long, long time. And thanks to our neighbors around the neighbors around Israel in the Middle East. And Hamas was wanting to negotiate. However, they have only agreed to a potential hostage exchange. And Jeremy, I don't know the exact numbers, but I believe it is orders of magnitude. What is it? The 28 outstanding hostages. Some of them are not standing, sadly, some of them dead, to be replaced. But the entire remaining hostage numbers from Gaza in exchange for I think over 1,500. It's between 12 and 1,500 Israeli prisoners, or Palestinian prisoners that the Israelis have. And I think the question there is, again, you ask, is that a fair exchange? I guess that to the Israelis, the value of those prisoners still in Gazan hands and Hamas's hands is worth that exchange. On the other hand, where is the capitulation on the part of Hamas to agree to never be involved in governance of the Gaza Strip? That's one of the two big provisions that they have yet to approve of. And number two, will they totally disarm? And I guess in pursuit of that, how in the heck would we ever know if they disarmed, with all of the tunnels and the underground bunkers and headquarters and satellite headquarters they have? To me, it seems like a lost cause to ever think you're going to harness in these folks. But at least I guess the biggest thing of this is, and I'm glad to see it, Trump told Israel in a Truth Social post to stand down, stop the bombing, while we try to sort this out and get this deal done. And that, I think, is a bit of a change in his tactic. This is leaning on Netanyahu a little bit, Jerome.
Yeah, and unfortunately, as of this morning, the bombs have not stopped falling on Gaza. So whether or not that's going to be conducive towards a peace deal and get peace finally between, at least temporary peace, I don't. It's yet to be seen, I suppose.
And you have to ask yourself, how long will the United States and United States leaders continue to? And it really, it started with Joe Biden when he basically said, "Hey, we're going to stop arming you if you don't manage this a little bit better," to Netanyahu. And I guess at some point you have to be careful about becoming just a tool of Netanyahu, whatever he says the United States marches to. And while I support Israel in general to have a footprint over there in the Middle East and to have at least a somewhat democratic society over there, to at least give us a little bit of some intel and a little bit of some a flashlight in the darkness, if you will. I think at what cost, do we do that? And those are the questions that people will be asking if in fact a deal is brokered, and if in fact there is some capitulation on the part of Hamas. Will Israel then back off and stay backed off? I don't know. And then will Donald Trump be a developer over in Gaza Strip? That's going to be an interesting deal.
Yeah, it's not going to be financially sustainable for the United States to keep, printing or borrowing money to send to both Israel and Ukraine to continue their wars. At some point, we need to have a more serious look at brokering a long-term peace solution, if for no other reason than our economy is already. I mean, we are almost 38 trillion in debt already, and it's just not going to be sustainable.
Chump change. That's just a few DoorDash deliveries. Yeah, no big deal.
Let's all check our couch cushions for some more pennies, right?
Well, to that end, we have a show that I think will will stimulate a lot of thought. In just a few minutes, we're going to be talking to Andrew Art Arthur, who, of course, is our resident expert from the Center for Immigration Studies. And I am curious about exactly what health benefits are illegal aliens. This is among many questions. Illegal aliens who Joe Biden gave asylum, parole, conditional temporary status, all of these different ways that he found to make these people big, large, bold, air finger quotes here, legal in this country. And that's an important distinction. To what extent are they currently able to access marketplace coverage or Medicaid, depending on the state? I think there's going to be some state decisions that determine that particular designation. Because around all of the rhetoric that the Republicans are saying that the Democrats want to restore the health care access that illegal immigrants had and then was taken away under the Big Beautiful Bill Act, Democrats allegedly want to restore that. I want to know just how true that is. What was the status under Biden? Could they really get, after having to fill out if you're an American citizen, try to fill out all the forms to be on the marketplace or go down to the Medicaid office and get Medicaid. I mean, it's nigh impossible. Sign up for Medicare. Ridiculous, right? Really, for almost any insurance, there's a lot of paperwork that goes on. So you'd think that the filtering would somehow filter those out. But if they're designated, quote, legal, close quote, by Joe Biden, who made anyone who came over here under any auspices legal, including that blanket parole where people could fly from Venezuela, Cuba, where was the other one? Haiti, and there were a few countries, Honduras, I believe. They could come over here and just a plane would take them from their country here. Well, they were, quote, quote, legal, close quote. I keep saying that. And therefore probably could access some health care. The other component was if you're a hospital and you're providing lawfully, because you can't not provide care when someone comes to your emergency room door, you can't say, you don't have the papers, I'm not taking care of you. You can't do it. And medically, you shouldn't do it. Ethically, medically, and legally, you can't do it. There's an act called EMTALA. I want to know from Art Arthur what they were getting, what the Big Beautiful Bill took away, and what the Democrats are actually fighting for. My understanding is that one line item in the Big Beautiful Bill that they want to scratch is to take away, to restore the Biden era healthcare access that they had. We'll talk to Art about that, about the ICE protests. Why in the world would anyone remain an ICE agent when you can't protect yourself? California passes a law, you can't wear a mask, your family's going to get doxxed, you may be trailed to your home. There's been people now arrested and prosecuted for that. And see what he thinks about this effort, if it's going to finally protect these officers as they continue to try to do their job and enforce the law. What a novel idea. And the blue jurisdictions from across the land, Portland, Memphis, Chicago, all fight. Well, Portland and Chicago for sure fighting it. I think Memphis may have a different tack. Things are a disaster area down there. At 7:05, on the heels of the pharma announcement, the Pfizer announcement, and others may or may not follow, with Trump and all of the healthcare officials, Marty McCary and Dr. Oz and Bhattacharya and all of them, and the Pfizer CEO in the Oval Office early this week. What really does that mean for you if you need a medication? Now, I'm not talking about your hydrochlorothiazide for your blood pressure or your losartan or your lisinopril or your, fluoxetine. That's Prozac. A lot of that going around these days when you look at the landscape of the American culture and politics. But those kind of things I'm not talking about. Those are nickel and dime stuff, relatively speaking. It's the specialty drugs, the brand name drugs, the things that are making a difference, the biologic agents, the high dollar drugs. announcement made this week that Americans can now get 50 to 85%. At one point, I think Trump said 100% discount. Jerome, check me on this, but if the price of the item on the shelf, if the loaf of bread costs $1.50 and you get 100% discount, shouldn't you be able to walk away with it without paying a penny?
If my math checks out, then yes.
Yeah, I'm calling BS on the Donald on that one. I'm sorry. 100% discount is free.
It would be nice, though.
But what exactly does that mean? We're going to separate the rhetoric from the reality. We do a lot of that on this program. And sometimes it doesn't feel good because it grates against the feel-good aspect of all the hyperbole and all of the, the grandstanding that goes on. It goes on both sides. But being the truth warriors we are, we got to call it out, and we have to make sure we know for you and establish for you what difference does it make. And I think there is a potential difference, and we'll talk to Ron Fitzwater. He is a pharmacist. He also happens to be the mayor of Jefferson City, and also helps the legislators in Jefferson City understand the tremendous threat to pharmacists, independent pharmacists, and your local pharmacy. Because when it's crunch time and you need that medication, if you don't have a local pharmacist nearby and you can only send in to Optum or the mail-in place because of your insurance, and you got to wait for that and wait for it to turn around, and you need a medication now, what happens when your local pharmacy goes belly up? There is a real threat. We're going to see what that announcement means for you, your access, and the cost to medications with Ron Fitzwater. Of course, we talk with Kruta at 7:45, as we always do. And then at 8:25, Colonel Josh McConkey. He happens to be running for lieutenant governor in North Carolina, but he's a doc. He's also a colonel in the Air Reserves, and so I think Army Reserves. And we're going to talk to him about, he's a combat surgeon. Talk to him about the Quantico meeting, which was a bit odd. A lot of generals, or a couple of generals, I think, have retired. I don't know, maybe they were going to anyway, but that was a trigger. And there's been some little back and forth. Was Hegseth trying to do his Patton imitation? Was it impressive? Could the content have been delivered with a little less hubris to career generals and brass? We'll see what Josh McConkey thinks. And of course, all morning we invite your calls and comments. Join us on Rumble, on YouTube, on Facebook. 314-912-1019, my number. 314-912-1019 here on News Talk STL 1019 and 94.1. Now, we will, of course, be playing some interesting sound from the week. We have some fun and lighthearted stuff for you, too. So I hope you stay with us all morning on the big show. We'll come back and talk with Art Arthur about immigration matters, ICE, and what about health care? Are they really getting it? Did the Republicans really take it away? Did the Democrats really want to restore it? And get an update when we come back in just a few. Stay tuned. There's a lot being said about technology in medicine and AI, and I think all of us are maybe dipping our toe into that. Well, the people at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles, my good friends, Dr. Daniel Cusimano and I have been into technology longer than I think many, and they're the tip of the spear when it comes to that in the dental world. And all of the technology that I routinely see and occasionally get to take advantage of is very impressive. And I think that's really the sweet spot when you see a medical professional. You want to make sure that they have the basics down. They got that covered. And then they use the technology to really put that expertise on steroids and apply it to you tenderly, expertly, and efficiently. And you know what? They looking out for your pocketbook too. You should ask them if you haven't already seen them. Many of you have, I know, and they tell me about that. They have a dental savings plan that might be helpful for you too. In this disruptive era of medicine, the healthcare system is broken. They are part of a disruptive system in all the right ways, trying to bring the best in technology to you at the right price and helping you make sure that you can afford it and get access. And they do some fun stuff too with Botox. Well, sometimes fun, sometimes cosmetic, sometimes that TMJ can benefit from that, as well as the fillers, which are very cosmetically helpful as well. Learn all about the services they do, the people they are, the testimonies to them at advanceddentistrynow.com. That's advanceddentistrynow.com.
When you've got something to say, be heard loud and clear.
If they'll just do what they were voted in to do.
This party needs to get a backbone. They need to get some spine.
Join the conversation. St. Louis's place to talk.
The Democrats and the Republicans can give us all the lip service they want, but what they need to do is take action today.
101.9 and 94.1.
You know, you have to take a stand sometimes.
This is News Talk STL. News, analysis, and opinion.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for O'Fallon Family Floors, O'FallonFamilyFloors.com. Brian and his team, they're just amazing people. They're so proud of their operation. Pride in every installation. You can see that in the Google reviews. Pride in the great quality, pride in the great pricing, pride in the great variety, and pride in the fact that you can go into the store right off of Highway K at O'Fallon, or the store will come to you. That's the promise of O'Fallon Family Floors, O'FallonFamilyFloors.com.
Hey, DIY warriors, ready to transform your outdoor space? Start with Lee May Concrete Block, St. Louis's trusted family-owned manufacturer since 1947. Whether you're building a retaining wall, creating a backyard fireplace, or pouring concrete, Lee May's got you covered. From compact blocks to large cast concrete, they provide materials and professional guidance to bring your vision to life. Military and first responders get special discounts. Visit Lee May Block Showroom or LeeMayBlock.com. Lee May Block, building your dream one block at a time.
Looking for unbelievable deals? Stop by Overstock Outlet in Lake St. Louis or Warrenton. Open 7 days a week. Discover big savings on a huge variety of merchandise with no hassle. Just great prices. Visit us in Lake St. Louis on Highway N or in Warrenton on Boones Lake. Check out our Facebook page at Overstock Outlet Lake St. Louis or go online to overstockoutletstl.com. Unbeatable value, friendly service, and you never know what we'll have at Overstock Outlet.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for Patriot Heating and Cooling. When your home's comfort is on the line, you need a team you can trust. That's why I recommend Patriot Heating and Cooling, St. Louis's trusted team of HVAC experts. These pros make customer service their number one priority, whether it's a summer breakdown or a winter emergency. Booking your service couldn't be easier. Just visit callpatriothvacstl.com or call 314-527-2722. Patriot Heating and Cooling. Comfort every day, the Patriot way.
Tim Jones here for Comprehensive Chiropractic in Eureka, the premier chiropractic and sports performance facility in the region. They've helped me recover from day-to-day aches and pains for years. And here's something special, personal training programs. Whether you're an athlete committed to increasing performance, recovering from an injury, or just want to get healthier and lose weight, their personal training programs will help you reach your goals and stay there. Comprehensive Chiropractic in Eureka, online at cchiropractic.com. That's cchiropractic.com.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com.
It's Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show, and you are listening to Randy Tobler right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Why? Because you're awesome.
Include national security threats. To give anybody a heads up, ICE is working right now on 14th Street and Broadway. If you're a criminal in that area, there's going to be that population, that percentage is going to prepare for ICE to come, and someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to get killed. They gave a heads up to the bad guy. Someone's about to knock at your door. So I'm glad Pam Bonnie's stepping up. DOJ's investigating this heavily. I think that's why the app went down, because they're looking at criminal investigation.
Tom Homan announcing that Apple has taken off the basically Finder apps that let the terrorists, the anti-ICE terrorists, largely Antifa, find out where ICE is and put their lives in danger. And there is a coordinated assault, no doubt. We're going to talk about that with our special guest and a real internationally recognized national security and immigration expert, Andrew Arthur, joins us now. And Art, that was good to see that Apple, right thing. They've been loath to to do anything that to really comply with any Republican form of government and governance. But certainly in this instance, they're doing the right thing by the ICE officers who are under assault. I mean, they have a target on their back.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. It's the really remarkable thing, and I usually do international interviews like this, and people are sort of quizzical about the fact that we can put spotters out there, markers on the backs of our agents, so that we can follow them as they move around the city. And Randy, anybody that's ever been down at the border will be familiar with the phenomenon of various small businesses that don't really seem to get a lot of customers that are along those critical roads along the border that Border Patrol uses to keep the border secure. And those individuals are spotters, and they're keeping track of the agents, keeping track of the numbers and conveying that to people on the other side of the border, smuggling people or drugs or other contraband. But the idea that you would, be able to download an app on your phone to do that is, completely remarkable. I think that Apple's doing the right thing here, particularly in the face of the attacks that we've seen, most notably, or most recently and notably on the Dallas ICE facility, in which the shooter who killed 2 migrants, apparently accidentally, was actually using those apps to keep track of agents.
It's unbelievable. And what's really, I don't know. I mean, obviously you've been at all levels of immigration enforcement, but I wanted you to listen to the ICE director in Portland and listen to her frustration, implying that either the officers are I imagine they're being ordered by their officials to sort of basically be apathetic and stand down. Take a listen to this.
The Portland Police Bureau is really under guidance from the mayor and the city council and other people that first off, they're not really supposed to respond to this building. There have been folks that have been assaulted right down here on the street, even across the street, and it takes Portland police a while to respond, or sometimes they don't respond at all.
Is that frustrating?
Can you imagine, Art, the frustration in the local police officers? I can't imagine that they agree with the orders they're given, but maybe you have some insight into that, because we saw it in LA. There was a slow or an absent response of local law enforcement to help defend the federal buildings and other places, and now in Portland.
Yeah, no, and this is a phenomenon that we see across so-called sanctuary cities and jurisdictions. A lot of cops that I've talked to, the rank and file cop on the street wants law and order. They want everything to be orderly. They would like things to be as quiet as possible. And for that reason, they want to enforce the law. They want to make sure that people that, violate the law get arrested. It's those political, overseers in those organizations that, do have their own political perspective that is often not in line with what the officers want or what the officers know is needed for security. And, we need to go back a couple of months, more than a couple of months, back to June the 7th, which, was the first time that Portland police were called to clear the driveway of that ICE facility in Portland, Oregon. Fast forward to the 14th, the No Kings, as it was called, protests. The police actually in Portland had to declare a riot because of the activities that were taking place at that ICE facility. And, things have only devolved since then. A lot of these people are just, looky-loos, people who want to be there, people who, want to relive the 60s and, didn't get to go to Woodstock. And then there's an element of what Big and Rich referred to as a freak parade, various free spirits, as my father-in-law would call them, who were gathered. But then you have some, real professional agitators in there. And those people are really the ones that that ICE is concerned about, and probably, and I haven't spoken to any Portland street cops, but the Portland street cops are concerned about too.
Yeah, it's something else. We do have a lot to get to, and especially a couple of the pieces that you've written on CIS.org, Center for Immigration Studies website. But I did want to talk about the immigration culture and are, well, I don't know anymore who's illegal or not after Joe Biden. He made everyone who used to be illegal legal under parole and temporary status and, you know, asylum seeking. It's crazy. But, you know, in this current shutdown that we're talking about, the GOP was trying to reel back access to Obamacare and other, I guess, Medicaid and general, you know, legitimate, if you will, insurance plans. The way I can tell that they had no right to get that. And as I understand it, by striking a certain provision in the Big Beautiful Bill Act that reversed some of the Biden access provisions, the Democrats are proposing that they strike that and basically return to pretty open access. Now, what I'm unclear about is exactly what did Biden provide for people who crossed the Rio Grande and said, oh, asylum, and are awaiting adjudication, or the mass parolees. I call them that bucket of the people that we really know don't need to belong here, but by executive fiat suddenly are, quote, legal. What did they have access to before the Big Beautiful Bill? What did the Big Beautiful Bill take away? And what are the Democrats wanting and holding the government operations hostage to? A long question, but I hope you get what I'm talking about.
No, I understand exactly what you're talking about. And, you know, this really comes down to a question of semantics. And this might be the first semantic government shutdown I've ever seen. In the Immigration and Nationality Act back in 1996, Congress basically drew a line between who's legal and who's not. Anybody who's been admitted to the United States and isn't under a final order of removal is here legally. Anybody who hasn't been admitted to the United States isn't here legally. There's no definition of a legal alien or legal immigrant in the Immigration and Nationality Act, although I do actually I get that question quite often. But that's really the line in the sand. Now, you talked about parole, and this is absolutely crucial to this discussion. Individuals who are not admissible to the United States, they don't have proper documents, or they're not, admissible to the United States for some reason. And we experience this, you know, in our each of us in our lives when we show up at an international port of entry, and you know, we show our documents to the inspector, and they let us in, or they don't let us in. Well, there were 2.9 million people under the Biden administration who were paroled into the United States. They weren't admitted because they weren't admissible. But the Biden administration let them in anyway. And we've talked in the past about some of the rather novel programs that they use to do that. But any person who is paroled into the United States for more than a year becomes eligible after a period of time to receive those Obamacare subsidies. That's going to be true until 2027. And depending on how the shutdown goes, it may be true into the indefinite future. But the Big Beautiful Bill took Obamacare benefits away from that almost 3 million population of people who had no right to be in the United States. And that's a huge sticking point for the Democrats. We've talked about Obamacare ever since this thing was passed on a party line vote, against over the objection of Republicans more than a decade plus ago. Basically we've all more or less come to settle on Obamacare, but it's those extensions and that flooding of the population of people who are not here in lawful status, or who are in what's called liminal or twilight status, their eligibility to receive not only Obamacare, Andy, but we're talking about other means tested public benefits, things like food stamps, various other federal programs that are available to them. And the Trump administration has been trying to roll back those things. And in the one big beautiful bill, it was that Medicaid expansion, that Medicaid opportunity for those people that was in the block. And the Republicans said, no, we're not going to give these people benefits, because when we talk about immigration, we always talk about the magnet that draws people here. Jobs is the biggest magnet, but healthcare and, access to public schools for children has become a huge magnet, and became a huge magnet under the Biden administration. So Trump is attempting to turn off those magnets so that people are more likely to go home.
So again, to be clear, the person who crosses the Rio Grande is detained and released under Biden with a yellow ticket to come back in God knows when for their asylum hearing. They were okay under Biden. They wouldn't be okay if the big, beautiful bill provision stands and the Democrats want to return it to Biden, correct?
Yeah, and you need to break that down into various tranches. The 3 million that were paroled in the course of that process become eligible for Obamacare subsidies. The people from Cuba and Haiti who were paroled in or who made asylum claims, they become eligible for those subsidies. People who are granted withholding, like Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who, by the way, might be the poster boy for this shutdown because he's eligible for Obamacare subsidies because he was granted withholding of removal. And those were the categories of people that the Republicans stripped of Obamacare eligibility, and that's what this fight is about.
Okay, but the ones that are in limbo, they would not get that under the Republican plan. Okay. I do see a point, though.
Randy, with one exception, and that is EMTALA. And being a physician, you're probably familiar with the emergency medical treatment.
Yeah, you read my mind. You read my mind.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting the way that EMTALA is being used. Basically, for your listeners, under a Reagan-era law, every person that presents at an emergency room must be stabilized in their treatment. They can't simply be turned away, and that's under EMTALA. And a lot of people who are here illegally use the emergency room as their primary care physician because they know if they show up, they're going to get treated. The same goes for women who are in labor. So I think there's a 48-hour rule under EMTALA. If you show up and you're in labor, we deliver your baby and you get to stay in the hospital for 2 days, and then we release you. The problem is that in a lot of states and a lot of hospitals, it extends well past that 48-hour period. And we're not simply stabilizing you, we're actually treating whatever your ailment is. And that gets passed along to taxpayers across the United States. That's a huge chunk of Medicaid. And it's not reimbursed. And if you go to a hospital, one of the things you're going to see, and again, being a physician, you'll know this, we need to have informed consent. But how do you get informed consent from somebody who doesn't speak English? Well, you have to hire an interpreter. The problem is that those interpreters aren't reimbursable under Medicaid. So the hospital ends up having to eat those costs, which means that, when you bring, Timmy in who, broke his arm playing Little League Baseball, his, your payment for the treatment is going to go in part to pay for all of those extra costs that aren't covered by Medicaid.
You outlined that beautifully. I ran a little safety net hospital for a while and practiced there. And exactly, I mean, no matter where the uncompensated care comes from, it's really a bite, especially in rural hospitals and those hospitals along the border. Probably better than I, the crunch that they're under economically. And I think this is something that I think would be important for the Republicans to point out to independents, which according to polls in this shutdown are sort of wavering. Some polls say they're blaming the Republicans, some the Democrats. Well, the sheer numbers of people that Joe Biden let into this country have overwhelmed many of these hospitals. They're dying on the vine. Hospitals already run on a low margin, especially safety net hospitals, and to lose reimbursement is awful. You could argue that if you're going to restore anything, GOP, at least help keep these people whole, but make sure that you pin the tail on the donkey as to why you're having to do that. It's because of Joe Biden's policies. And I think that that's a critical point that's missed. Now, overnight, yesterday, the Supreme Court made important decisions regarding Venezuelans. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So one of the things, let's just go back before the Biden administration. Every year we'd get about 2,000 illegal Venezuelans show up at the southwest border. And that was, pretty settled for about 5 years before Biden shows up. Biden shows up and all of a sudden we get tens of thousands of Venezuelans showing up per month. And then Biden crafts a plan to, drive down the border numbers, not by dissuading Venezuelans from coming to the United States, but rather from allowing them to fly directly into airports in the United States so that they didn't show up in those border numbers. That was the Cuban, Haitian, Nicaraguan, Venezuelan program. The problem was that once those people got here, they didn't really know anybody and they couldn't really support themselves. And so they put a huge strain on the social safety net in cities like New York. You'll remember Eric Adams saying, illegal migration is going to destroy New York. But, New York is 1,000 miles away from the southwest border. It was all of those Venezuelans that was let in. And so what the Biden administration did was they gave what's called temporary protected status to the Venezuelans. This is supposed to be a temporary program, very limited in scope, because, for example, there was a volcano in Montserrat. So we gave TPS to people from Montserrat for a while until they could get settled and go someplace else. But, when they did this for the Venezuelans, it was simply to get the political heat off of Democratic mayors, primarily in the Northeast, by giving work cards, because you get a work card with TPS, to those people. And the Trump administration has decided that Venezuela no longer qualifies for TPS. There are, tens of millions of people living in Venezuela. They, are having a rough time of it, but they get by. And so the Supreme Court has said, no, nobody has the right to review that purely discretionary determination by the Secretary of Homeland Security to end TPS. And so, basically what the Supreme Court did was they read the statute, which a lot of lower court judges didn't bother to do.
It's amazing. I mean, we've been living in this alternate universe where, even common blokes like me, when you look at these things, and you often chronicle them in your pieces, you look at the language and you go like, I'm sorry, do I need to go to law school to understand what the law is? But it's good. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. If the executive can make a decision under Biden, let Donald Trump make the decision. Well, once again, Art, we're out of time. We haven't gotten to everything I hope to, but hope to touch base again real soon. You always have this way of making the complex understandable for us common blokes. Thanks for being here on the Tobler Show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Randy. Greatly appreciate it.
Take care. Oh boy. Yeah. It's like he said, what's with these federal judges? You read the language, they can't get it right. Wow, the Supreme Court decided to read the statute. Good for them. When we come back, if you're mad as hell and can't take it anymore, you'll understand why I'm madder than hell and can't take it much longer myself. What's with law and order and soft on crime in this country? Another example when we come back on the Tobler Show.
Doctor, you have an unsurpassed talent for understatement.
Live and local.
Well, here's what's on my mind. I think I got the solution to immigration.
News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion.
Jamie Allman here with the Allman Report. Pleased to be with Jordan Rosenblum. Google the bagel loan. That's what it's all about. Jordan, tell me about purchasing a home, brother.
Purchasing a home right now, it's a tough market. You're going to see a lot of competition. On the bagel loan that we have, you're going to have no closing costs, no title fees, no appraisal fees, no lender fees. Saves an average client almost $4,000 on a transaction. Customer service, unbelievable. Text, call anytime.
As I know, as a real estate agent, Google the bagel loan. Google the bagel loan, folks.
NMLS number 226715.
Great patio season to enjoy any of the Cafe Napoli locations. How about the Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield? Enjoying coal-fired pizza, nothing else like it. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. A few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, where you can enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys. Check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook for details, plus gift cards for friends. I'll see you at Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
For 15 years, M&M Guns and Supplies has been St. Peter's trusted family-owned firearms destination, carrying top brands like Glock, Smith & Wesson, Ruger, Winchester, and more, plus Vortex and Loophole Optics. Need repairs, scope mounting, or bore sighting? They got you covered. Looking for something different? Check out their precision air rifles. They're one of the newest FX dealers in the region with a clean air fill station. M&M Guns on Salt River Road in St. Peter's or at mmguns.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for the Great Window World. You know, just over the last 20 years of Window World being in St. Louis, they've improved the look and thermal efficiency of more than 76,000 customers in St. Louis. Plus, Window World windows come with a lifetime warranty that covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor. And now Window World is now offering 36 months, same as cash financing with approved credit. Call them today at 314-993-1800, 314-993-1800.
Fall rebates are here at Johnson Heating and Cooling. Save up to $600 off your new heating and cooling system. Plus, get a free humidifier when you purchase a complete system. And here's the best part. We're offering up to 0% financing for 60 months. That means you can stay comfortable all winter without breaking the bank. Don't forget our $99 furnace checkup. These incredible offers expire November 30th. Call 636-332-4141 or visit johnson-heatingandcooling.com.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com.
Trivia from Larry Connors, USA. Dr. Tobler stole my haircut.
Thanks, Larry. Love you too, brother. Love Larry's show, and it's always fun when I get to be on with Larry. Hey, I do want to though think about a big theme. Larry talks about this a lot too. You know, you think about what we just talked about with Art Arthur. The complacency, the apathy, sometimes the wanton ignorance of the law. And I mean willful ignorance of the law, not knowing the law, but just ignoring the law, that sense of ignorance that goes on. And in that realm, it was immigration, of course. But I think we see this in our news cycle reporting. People that are, caught for lower level crimes, there may be, it's downcharged to nothing to speak of, and they get a little misdemeanor, and if you're in good terms, then you can get it expunged, and then, well, if I can get away with that, then they do something a little bit higher level, and then higher level and higher, and sooner or later, many of them end up hurting someone, raping someone, burning someone's business to the ground, looting and vandalizing and ruining a small business. We saw that in Black Lives Matter, the riots for months and months on end. And you scratch your head, and it bubbles to the surface, Jerome, when, okay, so Helene's car shot craps a few weeks ago on Labor Day. Just blew up. Basically, the injectors went bad, 200,000 miles. I'm like, okay, we're going to get a car. So we got and get a car, and all of the things we've had to do, and it's a little thing. Okay, you might say, Randy, come on, don't sweat the small stuff. But I'm making my point here. You get a temporary tag. I got to get things done by the time that tag, expires. I have to get an inspection. Oh, the inspection shows I need wiper blades. I better do that. I need my tag. Then you have to pay the sales tax to make sure you can get. We jump through all the hoops. We salute. We genuflect to the government. We do what we need to do and obey the law. Try to put a deck on your house in certain jurisdictions. It's like an act of Congress to get the inspectors and the plans approved. And okay, fine. But then people get away with stuff that's existentially important. And the law has just, frankly, given the middle finger to everyday Americans that do the right thing. Stephen Federico knows a little bit about that. Listen.
How many of y'all have kids? I'm just curious. Here's what I need you to do. When I tell you this story, think about your kids. Think about your child coming home from a night out with their friends, laying down, going to sleep, feeling somebody come in the room and wake them and drag her out of bed, naked, forced on her knees, with her hands over her head, begging for her life, begging for her hero, her father, me, that couldn't be there. She was 5'3". She weighed 115 pounds. Bang! Dead. Gone. Why? Because Alexander Devontae Dickey, who was arrested 39 damn times, 25 felonies, was on the street. How about that? How good are we doing for our family?
It leaves you speechless when you hear the passion, the broken heart, the broken man that he is, in one sense. I mean, he is resolved, he's resolute. He's never, ever going to let these people forget. I don't think he's ever, ever going to let these prosecutors forget. How can I desperately, if you know anyone who is a retired prosecutor who maybe was part of a system that didn't work the way they wanted, I don't understand. To my dying day, I will not understand why prosecutors, at some point, I understand early on having some degree of grace, not total grace, but, we do that with our children when they misbehave. We don't lock them down forever in the basement and say you're never allowed to play another Little League baseball game. You're never allowed to go to another dance competition for a girl. We don't do that. But we do make them have consequences and make it crystal clear. And the next time they do something, the consequence is even more stringent. I have rarely seen a prosecutor take a mea culpa for his profession or her profession, for the system. Yeah, we've talked to Zach Smith from Heritage, who wrote the book Rogue Prosecutors about Kim Gardner and others. But at some point, you say, what is wrong with you people? What is wrong with you judges? People die because of the decisions you make, and the decisions you make early on, when it's just a little vandalism, it's just a little shoplifting. And you legislators who say, well, we're just going to make this a misdemeanor. It used to be a felony. What in the hell is the matter with you people? Caller, welcome into the Randy Tobler Show. Go.
Hi, Dr. Tobler. This is Kimberly Kowalski. How are you?
Hi, Kimberly. I'm
Hey, listen.
okay. I'm sorry I'm a little worked up when I hear that. As a father of two young women and a father-in-law to a young woman, I can't imagine. I cannot imagine what it's like to be him.
Okay. I'm 30-something years into Jeff being shot in the line of duty and dying. It took him 20 years to die, and then dealing with the justice system in the state of Missouri. So I do have some insight into what I see are some of the pitfalls of what's going on. I just had another parole hearing, and now this offender that was involved in the shooting of a line of duty death officer, I had to become extremely aware of how to present in a parole hearing. What are the talking points to make other people who are in charge of the decision making in the state of Missouri, under the Department of Corrections, under the Board of Probation and Parole, hey, why are you even letting these two violent offenders out? Why am I coming here every 2 to 5 years reliving these nightmares? Because now I'm going through, that readjustment in my own mental emotional.
Yeah.
So I understand where this father is coming from, because as a parent, I would be even more regression into the rage stage of grief. But I will say this, when you look at the numbers in the state of Missouri of the incarceration rates, and you see that 60% are violent offenders and 40% are nonviolent offenders, it almost looks to me like everybody's getting the same shake when they go to the parole hearing. I don't believe that violent offenders should be in the line at all. I think there are more than enough nonviolent offenders to negotiate who should be let out, because there is a line in the sand between a non-violent female addict created by the opioid crisis. I want to point out that the state of Missouri is accepting opioid settlement money, but they're not going back to address the women that are still incarcerated or that now have felony convictions, and you're going to forever handcuff them to cleaning houses because they have a record when they try to get a job, but you're admitting that they were created addicts. And here we are. We have violent offenders being released because of some kind of system. If you have to go as a representative of either being the victim or survivor or the survivor's family, such as myself, then you better know that the state of Missouri uses something called ORIS. It's out of Ohio. You better know how to argue the salient factoring. You better know the Missouri Department of Corrections handbook. And you better do more than sit there and cry and tell about how tragic it is that there's a dead officer in the state of Missouri, and you shouldn't let out violent offenders who go back out on parole with their golden ticket and they flush and burn and wipe and use it, and then come back in there and say, I'm fighting for my freedom.
Oh,
So you're going to have to draw a line in the sand about whether or not you want violent offenders kept away, because that is a different animal. And I'm going to use that word animal.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to decide whether or not you want to incarcerate at 60-40, or you want to see the state of Missouri do more about keeping the violent offenders in there. And I will tell you, it is harder to keep a violent male in control in a prison than it is a woman in the hole for drugs. So there's my spiel.
Hey, well, I thank you, Kim, and we're out of time. But Kimberly, I know your story. I know you well, and my heart breaks for you. I know you. I knew your husband so well, and it's just it's sad. Thanks for the advice. Thanks for weighing in, and God bless you. God bless you. Thanks, Kimberly. We'll step aside, and when we come back, we're talking pharma, Pfizer. You're going to get your drugs cheaper? Let's talk with Ron Fitzwater about that. He knows a little bit about it. He's a pharmacist and the mayor of Jefferson City. Back in a few.
Hi, it's Ken Williams, and my favorite Capriati sandwich is the Capistrami. You've got hot pastrami, melty Swiss cheese, crunchy coleslaw, and zesty Russian dressing. What else do you need? I love Capriati's, and you will too.
On Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
When water troubles strike, call the family you can trust. Tim Jones here for Ambassador Plumbing, serving our community since 2018 with 25 years of master plumbing expertise from Tim Morris and his handpicked team. Whether it's a simple faucet repair or a complete bathroom remodel, if water runs to it or through it, they do it. From residential service calls to commercial to new construction, the folks at Ambassador are your neighbors treating you like family. Ambassador Plumbing, where faith meets craftsmanship. 636-383-6932 or ambassadorplumbing.com. That's ambassadorplumbing.com.
Hey, it's Vic. If you have a tree that you think is dead, you can get Roots Plus to remove it for you. Or if you think the tree is savable, or if Roots Plus thinks it's savable, they can save your tree and you keep your cash. Call them and find out what that's all about at 314-440-3662. The crews are great. They get things done. They removed the tree for me, and they did expert work, and I definitely will put my name on their company. So save the tree with Roots Plus LLC. RootsPlusLLC.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Congressman Burgess Owens, the NFL is instituting male cheerleaders this year. Your thoughts?
This is, again, what the NFL is all about. They hate the idea of masculine men and feminine women. They're going to have these guys at some point. These guys are going to be tossed up, and they'll be at the top of the pyramid.
I may join you in boycotting NFL if I ever see that.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed. Oh, yeah? Yeah, he's starting with the woots. Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news at townhall.com. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. The administration is using the government shutdown to withhold some federal funding from projects in states with Democrat senators.
White House Budget Director Russ Vought announced the withholding of $2 billion for Chicago infrastructure projects. It affects a long-awaited plan to extend the city's Red Line train. Earlier in the week, Vought made a similar announcement by halting $18 billion for infrastructure in New York. However, on Friday, President Trump personally reversed some of those funding cuts, restoring $187 million for New York's law enforcement and counterterrorism operations, following outcry from both Democrats and Republicans. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Republican Senator Dan Sullivan of Alaska says Democrat leader Chuck Schumer is personally responsible for the government shutdown.
Schumer once said that making huge demands on a clean CR is, quote, political idiocy. Well, guess who's committing political idiocy right now? Chuck Schumer with the Schumer shutdown, and he's doing it just to appease the left wing.
To appease the left wing so he won't be primaried by leftist elements inside his own party, most likely AOC, for his job as a senator. More Americans living paycheck to paycheck, according to a new study, and we get more details from Bill Alexander.
And the trend is expected to get worse. According to a Goldman Sachs report, by 2033, 55% of workers will be living paycheck to paycheck, with the number going up to 65% by 2043. People are just paying a lot more for everything: childcare, college, housing, and renting. Those rising costs combined with major life disruptions are hitting younger workers the hardest. Overall, many have stopped their retirement contributions, borrowed from their plans, or delayed retirement. Bill Alexander, Washington.
More on these stories at townhall.com.
In today's fast-paced world, professionals face endless projects, deadlines, competition. To thrive, you need mental clarity, sharp focus, and reliable memory. That's why the same company that brings you Relief Factor created Think Factor. Boy, am I glad to tell you about Think Factor. It's been a game changer in my life. It's designed to help us all think clearer and perform better daily. A powerful blend of nutrients that supercharges your memory and sharpens your focus so you can stay on top of your work and outshine the competition. It has been a game changer for me. After a few weeks of taking Think Factor, I have never had such clarity and focus or memory. If you've ever felt mentally foggy or struggled to keep up with everything on your plate, Think Factor can help you reclaim your cognitive edge and thrive. Call 800-4RELIEF, 800, the number 4RELIEF, or visit ReliefFactor.com to order Think Factor. It's called Think Factor. Call 800-4RELIEF or go to ReliefFactor.com. Your first bottle is just $19.95. Think Factor. Think clearer, perform better.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
People ask all the time, who the heck is Low Cost Airlines? Well, we're not just one airline. When you're talking to us, you're talking to everyone. We are the discount supermarket for all airline tickets. Plus, we have all the airlines and always have the best prices. American, Delta, United, plus all the specialized international airlines and a lot more. And we make it easy. We guarantee you'll talk to a live human in 60 seconds. You can have the rate you need and have your trip booked in 5 minutes. Now, how cool is that? And remember, when you're talking to us, it's like talking to every single airline available with one fast phone call. All you need to do is call and find the best prices to fly wherever it is you want to go. So are you ready? Call Low Cost Airlines right now. 800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. That's 800-515-2397.
You want the best place to watch baseball or any sport and be able to enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys? Lit Cigar Lounge. Lit has so many events each month. You need to constantly check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook. You don't want to miss anything. Plus, you can order food from Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, delivered within minutes right to your table. By the way, we're in the season for great patio dining. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta has your table waiting.
Why are you going to work? It's Sunday.
It's a brand new show on News Talk STL. JC's Sunday Showgram.
It's our debut show, and it's full of great stories. A new season of Saturday Night Live is upon us, and I'll tell you what it was like being at one of their legendary all-night cast parties. Plus, John Waite gets some backstage action with another legendary music star, and comedian Larry Miller talks opening for Frank Sinatra.
Sunday morning, 7 to 9. Then podcast each Monday on NewsTalkSTL.com.
Hi, I'm Mark Sutherland, founder of Stone Ledge Distillery, and I'd like to give you a bottle of Stolock whiskey or Inversion vodka. Enter now at stoneledgedistillery.com/win. Come experience our tasting room in historic Defiance. Enjoy Stolock whiskey, Inversion vodka, and other Missouri-made spirits, wine, and craft beer in our beautiful cocktail lounge, cigar room, or out on the patio with live music every weekend. Don't forget, win a bottle of Stolock or Inversion at stoneledgedistillery.com/win. Come raise a glass in Defiance.
Still waking up like you fought a bear in your sleep? Yeah, let's fix that. This Labor Day, starting September 5th, save up to $725 on top brands like Tempur-Pedic, Serta, and Beautyrest, only at Snooze Mattress Company in Chesterfield Valley. Here's the real game changer, Dream Mapping. We scan your pressure points and match you to the perfect mattress. No guesswork, just real comfort, personalized for you. Plus, 0% easy financing and local no-pressure service. Get in here, because if you don't snooze, you lose.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
You need somebody to explain the government shutdown debacle so it completely makes sense. Well, I can't do that. But Monday at 7:35, Congressman Bob Anders got an update for us.
Mornings starting at 5:30 on News Talk STL.
You know the day destroys the night, night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side.
It's Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show, and you are listening to Randy Tobler right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Why? Because you're awesome.
In addition, Pfizer has agreed to provide some of their most popular current medications to all consumers at heavily discounted prices of anywhere between 50 and even 100%. And that's off the price. And in some cases, even more than that. These drugs will be available for direct purchase online at a website operated by the federal government. We're also announcing that moving forward, all new medications introduced by Pfizer to the American market will be sold at the reduced most favored nation cost. So we'll be paying essentially what other countries are paying, who have been much lower for many, many years. In addition,
Well, that was Donald Trump in the Oval Office, flanked by all of his healthcare cabinet members and the CEO of Pfizer, announcing an agreement that was heralded as a huge savings for Americans, for American Medicaid program. And I thought we ought to break it down a little bit because, as we know, I think we all know that Donald Trump tends to hyperbolize things a little bit. But I thought we would talk to my friend Ron Fitzwater. He happens to be the mayor of Jefferson City, but he also happens to be a pharmacist and knows an awful lot about what's going on in the pharmacy world, an increasing cost center for employers paying for insurance for you if you're buying drugs, no matter whether it's through your employer covered plan or on the market, and also advocates for independent pharmacies. So, Ron, welcome into the program. Thanks for getting up early on a Saturday.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It's great to be with you.
So there was a lot said about the various provisions in this, that there were going to be discounts of 50 to 85%. I think at one point he said maybe even 100% discount. I don't know, Ron, but the last time I checked, if the loaf of bread says $2 on the shelf and I get 100% discount, I'm walking out without paying for it. I don't know how that works out, but we know how to factor that in. Let's talk about most favored nation status. Now, I'm looking at the White House, the whitehouse.gov website. It says the agreement ensures foreign nations can no longer use price controls to free run American innovation by guaranteeing MFN, most favored nation prices on all new innovative medicines Pfizer brings to market. Does that mean that if someone is going to be using a specialty drug made by Pfizer that has insurance through their healthcare plan, United Healthcare, and they go to a pharmacy, Joe's Pharmacy down the street, or at their supermarket or wherever, that they're going to get most favored nation pricing?
Well, I think we're like most Americans. We're still trying to figure out how this program rolls out. I did watch the media event in the Oval Office when the president rolled it out. He had the president of Pfizer there discussing the program. I think the shutdown of government kind of stepped in the middle of the real rollout of the program. So we're still trying to figure out what the program looks like. It, in all cases, should represent some form of savings for patients. We're still trying to figure that out. I mean, we still push the message that most of the problems in this country are not because of pharmaceutical pricing from the companies, but from the activities of pharmacy benefit managers, those middlemen in the middle of the process. But I did watch the rollout from Pfizer. I mean, I know he is in the process of trying to talk to other companies, and I think, that's part of the issues that we have with the program. But we certainly salute the fact that the president understands prescription drugs cost way too much in this country. There are a number of reasons for that, and finally someone is trying to take it head on.
As I understand it, that most favored nation pricing applies to Medicaid, that Medicaid can obtain those drugs at that. Not that Pfizer is going to sell it to, the distributor, the PBM at the same price. I don't know. And that, like you say, there's so much up in the air about this. The other provision, though, that's very interesting, and I think this is something we saw it with Ozempic and with, Mounjaro and their weight loss versions of the diabetes, the GLP-1 drugs. Now you can get that stuff directly from Lilly or Novo Nordisk, the manufacturers of those. And this seems to be an interesting trend, going direct to consumer from the pharma. So talk a little bit about TrumpRx.gov. He's always the master marketer. It's always about Trump. And the question I have for you is, as I understand it, if you have insurance that has a drug benefit, you won't be able to use your drug benefit through that insurance to go to the portal and ultimately to Pfizer. That's only if you're going to pay cash. Is that your understanding?
That is our understanding of the program, and that's where part of the problem is going to come in this country. I mean, most of us are covered by a health card, a drug card. We have copays, and there's a process. And, that's probably the legitimate role of the pharmacy benefit managers, but, that's a totally different subject. The other issue that we raise, most Americans are on multiple drugs. So if you're going to multiple websites eventually, who is monitoring the drugs that you're on? I mean, the drug company that you're buying from is going to be watching the one or two drugs you're buying from them. But if you're buying from 3 or 4 different companies, who's watching for drug-drug interactions and all the other things that pharmacists do on a day-to-day basis? So there's still issues to deal with. Again, we applaud the fact that they finally do realize that this is a problem for Americans, and we've got to figure it out, and you have to start somewhere.
Let's talk about the endangered species status of the independent pharmacist. I so appreciate the small pharmacies that, my patients often remain loyal to, even if it costs them more. I had an example yesterday, Ron. Interesting. I had discontinued an agent that at a visit a couple of weeks ago, and we were going to see how things worked off of that agent. And she was on 2 agents, and I was going to see how she did on one. And we talked yesterday, and it wasn't working out so well. So I figured, well, we'll take an alternate to the agent I had discontinued. But it was interesting. I wrote on the prescription, hey, because the electronic medical record, if there's anything good about the EMR, there's very much bad, but some of that helps us in monitoring, drug interactions and stuff. But it said, hey, it wanted to know why I was prescribing the same 2 drugs in the same class for this patient. I said, I discontinued that. That was supposed to go to the pharmacist. I guess it didn't get transmitted. But my point is, the pharmacist sent a message back to me, called me both, and said, hey, are you going to use both of these at the same time? And I said, no, I've already discontinued one. That to me is something that you're not going to get with Optum, with the PBMs. You're not going to get with a manufacturer who's selling a one-on-one drug to direct to consumer. That's an invaluable service. That pharmacist that's looking out for you in terms of knowing your profile, knowing what they last dispensed, and then saying, wait a minute, something's wrong here. This could be a dangerous combo. I don't see that there's any gap fillers there should the independent pharmacists continue to go the way of the dodo bird.
Well, and that's part of the problem that I deal with every day. Historically, the small town pharmacist, the local pharmacy, the community pharmacy has been the healthcare center in communities all across Missouri. I mean, in our communities, out in the field where you work and where my members work, there's a great relationship, as you indicated. They understand their patients, they understand what medications their patients have been on, and they take a great pride in working in that relationship. As independent pharmacies, small town pharmacies have disappeared, patients are forced to drive to towns around them where they're not known. They don't know the pharmacist doesn't know them, the pharmacist doesn't have relationships with physicians, and it's just less healthcare. I mean, back during the COVID crisis, pharmacies were about the only healthcare institutions that were open. I mean, they may have closed the front end of their pharmacy, but they were available and talking to patients. And as that disappears, I mean, as you well know, I mean, you can walk into your pharmacy and within a few minutes you're talking to a pharmacist and you can ask healthcare questions. So many communities no longer have that, and it's going to be a problem as we continue to roll out some of these programs and issues, and patients have questions and they want somebody to talk to. An 800 number doesn't meet most of our standards.
Yeah, well, I'm anxious to see how this all works out. At a minimum, I hope that if this agreement with Pfizer becomes more widespread across pharma land, that it doesn't continue to further erode the independent pharmacists, because I'm worried about that lack of that personal touch. When at a time when I think through like direct primary care, the kind of medicine I do and others, more personalized medicine is making inroads again in a disruptive way. I think that we need to maintain that important bond between the guy or gal giving you your medications and looking out for you on that end and the rest of your team. Well, Ron, thanks very much for this. Thanks for filling us in on the details and reminding us of how important our communities and pharmacies are. Thanks, my friend. Appreciate it.
I appreciate all you do. Thank you very much.
All right, that's Ron Fitzwater. He represents independent pharmacists in Missouri and also is the mayor of Jefferson City. Now, Jerome, there was a funny thing that happened. I have to say, if Trump ever loses his day job, well, I guess he will unless he runs for that third term, I think he can do some stand-up. The guy is pretty quick on his feet for his age and for anyone's age. Take a listen to what happened during that press conference as RFK, well, he had a little sniffle and a sneeze behind the Donald.
They couldn't test it. God bless you, Bobby. I hope I didn't catch COVID just there. Don't you have Paxlovid? What is it? He's got Paxlovid. Give me a Paxlovid immediately.
He looks over. RFK sneezes behind him. God bless you. Oh, I think I caught COVID. Then he looks over to the CEO of Pfizer who makes Paxlovid. He says, give me some Paxlovid. You got to hand it to the guy. He's quick on his feet. He's entertaining. He knows how to own the room, doesn't he? Let's talk a little shutdown when we come back on the Tobler Show. Coming up at 7:45, then will be Virginia Kruta. And at 8:25, we talk to Josh McConkey, Lieutenant Governor candidate for North Carolina. And he happens to be a doctor and a colonel in the reserves, a combat surgeon. A little bit about that Quantico meeting, Pete Hegseth's speech, and how that might have been taken in by the generals. And the new standards, too. More coming up on News Talk STL 101.9 94.1, The Tobler Show. We'll be back.
Randy Tobler.
It's my favorite show in the entire world.
This is News Talk STL.
We'll be right back.
Number one for live and local
conservative talk.
I'm very angry. I've heard a lot of people talking about gun control. You have to wave a magic wand and get rid of the establishment. This maniac is going to inspire the next maniac.
news, analysis, opinion.
But my focus is kind of the mental health crisis. Swamp stuff in the drain itself. I'm just sick of the protesting in general. And that's why it's so very important to be prepared.
1019 and 94.1.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on NewsTalkSTL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Now, the Free Market Minute, brought to you by the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University.
Hey, it's Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show, and I'm here with Dr. Grant Black. And Grant, does having more economic freedom make a difference in people's lives, such as maybe helping reduce poverty?
It definitely makes a difference. Economic freedom is critical for fostering well-being and prosperity. It enables people to make their own choices and pursue their own interest, like choosing careers, starting businesses, and innovating to make the world better. It thrives in environments that empower people, promote competition, and protect property rights, all while being supported by limited and healthy government. Economic freedom is a catalyst for generating higher incomes, greater wealth, more opportunities, better access to education, and improved health at all levels of society. It makes a difference.
The John W. Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University fosters and examines market-oriented approaches to economic and social issues. To learn more, visit hammondinstitute.org.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris.
How are you, Vic?
I don't want to put anybody else down, but when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that. The stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good, casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that because you can get all the information you need, understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Life's legal challenges deserve experienced representation. For over 15 years, Cole Combs Attorney at Law has been serving St. Charles and surrounding counties with comprehensive legal expertise. From tax preparation and estate planning to family law and criminal defense, Cole delivers personalized solutions for your unique situation. You have traffic tickets, need a business formation, real estate matters, one call will handle it all. Cole O. Combs Attorney at Law. Call 636-949-0010, extension 3 today, or visit colecombs-law.com.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com.
Very superstitious.
This is Larry Connors reminding you to listen to my program Monday through Friday at 6 p.m., the Larry Connors USA Daily Report. But now, back to the outstanding Dr. Randy Tobler.
There was an OMB memo going around suggesting that there might be firings during the shutdown. Do you think that will happen if the shutdown goes for a little bit of time, sir?
Well, there could be firings, and that's their fault. And it could also be other things. I mean, we could cut projects that they wanted, favorite projects, and they'd be permanently cut. So you could say, a lot of people are saying Trump wanted this, that I wanted this closing, and I didn't want it. But a lot of people are saying it because I'm allowed to cut things that should have never been approved in the first place. And I will probably do that.
Well, Donald Trump using this opportunity, I mean, Rahm Emanuel said it, right? Don't let any opportunity go to waste. Well, he's at least telegraphing that he will be taking advantage of that. Russell Vought has, I think, for a long time been very vocal about wanting to cut back and scale back the size of the federal workforce. And along with that, of course, the programs that go with it. We've already seen the cuts in the Department of Education, with the eventual goal of getting rid of that unconstitutional department. Anyone that wants to tell me that that's a constitutional department, please call 314-912-1019. Make your best case. And don't tell me the Supreme Court or whatever said it so. No. Let's go to the text of the Constitution. You show me where that applies. Secondly, he wants to certainly temporarily for people at a minimum, because of course these people otherwise are going to get paid retroactively. A lot of people, if they're honest about it, I mean, there's clips of IRS employees and others saying that they're happy, they want to get back to work, they just want to work. But I think, come on, if you knew you were going to get paid retroactively, which has happened in every shutdown, and if you knew that you, in the meantime, could go on a paid vacation, even if it's a staycation, not a bad deal, right? There probably are some federal workers who enjoy and feel fulfilled with what they do. If some of you work in federal facilities and federal workers, this is not a personal slam, but I just think that, it's not that tragic. There may be cash flow problems, admittedly. I can see that. But hopefully you've got a little rainy day fund and you can make that work. Trump may have gotten himself in a little bit of trouble this week when he referenced Project 25 after a year ago during the campaign, saying he'd never heard of Project 2025. Well, in fact, that was part of the agenda, which I absolutely, totally agree with. I think you may too. This shutdown is, of course, a matter of holding the government hostage and holding people who expect government payments, whether they're grantees, whether they are maybe people on subsidies. Maybe there are people who want to visit a national park. You're paying your taxes and you can't get to see a national park. That's all born on the wings of hostage taking by the Democrats because they want to roll back some of the provisions of the big, beautiful budget bill, which were going to exempt many illegals who under Biden were eligible for health care through Obamacare Marketplace, and they were going to then reinstall them as being equal. We talked about that with Art Arthur in the first hour. You'll hear that on the podcast later if you missed it. No problem. I think that the other thing, though, that they want to do, and this is a sticky wicket. This is a really sticky wicket, and this is a perfect example of when you give an entitlement and you expand or start a government program, a redistributionist program, it's nigh impossible to roll it back for the long term. Let me explain. Remember that the Affordable Care Act, so-called Obamacare, basically provided the government got in bed with insurers and guaranteed insurers subsidies in return for doing away with the underwriting that used to either exclude people that had existing conditions and hadn't bothered to get insurance or had lost it. That's a whole nother argument. Why did we ever let employers own your insurance? You should have portable insurance. It should go with you. And if you become self-employed, you should be able to deduct that. Your employer can deduct it. How come self-employed people can't deduct their insurance premiums? Whole nother discussion. At any rate, or if you're an individual and you're not self-employed, you're just, living on your savings. If you pay a premium, if your employer should deduct it, you should be able to deduct it. But at any rate, they said that people that were on the marketplace, up to a certain percentage could get tax credits. Meanwhile, on the back end, they're subsidizing the big insurance companies to prop them up. And they kept raising the limit. Under Biden, I think it was up to 400% of the federal poverty level. So a family of four making $100,000 is getting tax credit at one end And on the back end, depending on how sick they are, that's a whole nother area of corruption. The insurance companies pad the sickness quotas of those patients. Then they go to the government and say, we're taking care of a sicker group of people, so we need more money. I mean, it's so unbelievably rift with potential for fraud and corruption. You can't believe it. Wall Street Journal's written about that, creating fake diagnoses for patients covered under the ACA so that they can get increased government subsidies. It's unbelievable. Well, it's very believable, actually. So they raised the eligibility for 400%. And, Medicaid was expanded here in Missouri and 40 some odd other states to get more money to help support Medicaid in return for expanding the level of income you can make at which you get Medicaid. You see, these programs are like atomic bomb mushroom clouds. They just keep growing and expanding, and the mushroom gets bigger and bigger, and the fallout on the taxpayer bill, the national deficit and debt, and I think culturally, the mushroom cloud leaves radioactive waste all behind it. And by that, I mean it destroys us culturally. When you realize that there's a safety net that actually feels like a hammock, you're just not going to put on your you're not going to put on your coat and go out and shovel someone's driveway for $1. Not going to do it. It's too comfy inside. And people become accustomed to these things, and the safety net grows, and it becomes ever more comfortable. And pretty soon it's a heated safety net. And then pretty soon you get, you got a card that you can use to get food while you lay in your safety net. And the Republicans have said, look, if you're truly needy and you find yourself in a hard spot that was no fault of your own, we're going to still support you. But if you're an able-bodied man or woman of working age and you can't work and you're 28 years old and you're playing video games in your basement, conspiring how to maybe go join an Antifa rally or worse, hurt someone because you disagree with their politics. Well, I extended that a little bit. I don't think they've said that, but you know what I mean. We're not going to give you benefits, period. Hardworking people are not going to be held accountable for your decision to be intransigent. And the Democrats want to roll some of that back into the Biden hammock era. Not just a safety net, but a hammock. Jerome, I've been criticized for using the word hammock rather than hammock.
Hamhawks.
But it's spelled hammock. Why do we say hammock?
That's a very good. Well, my answer is because we're Americans and we can pronounce things.
We're Americans?
We darn well please.
Well, we're Americans, by golly.
Yeah.
And in St. Louis, it's not a fork, it's a fark. All right. 314-912-1019 here on the Tobler Show. No, and let's play this from Americans that are, I think, duly frustrated. People that are paying their taxes. Maybe they planned a vacation now that the kid's in school. Maybe some empty nesters want to go visit a national park or do something else. Take a listen.
I don't understand why they allow things to get this far and at the expense of the people that can't afford to lose the check.
I just wish they would do their job. We're paying a lot of money for taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And look, for government employees who do, demand that check to pay their bills, I understand that. I get that. I have sympathy for their present condition. Although, as I always remind them, and they don't think I'm complimenting them when I talk to federal or state employees, that I want to only be right-sized with the government, and that means they may have to shift their jobs. Oh, how much better you could do in the private sector if we had a thriving, truly free and unbridled semi-socialist market economy in this United States. You could thrive and prosper and be in the private sector. Oh, how much better it would be. I guarantee you it would be better. Your skills and talents and blessings would be better served. They would be better utilized. You'd feel so much more fulfilled at the end of the day. If you worked, instead of working for the IRS, plundering people's productivity and their hard-earned sweat and blood-earned labor, if you were on a productive side of the economy rather than a confiscatory side of the economy. Think how liberated you'd be. You wouldn't go to sleep at night feeling bad because you were plundering people's hard-earned income. I only say that partially tongue-in-cheek, only partially.
No, you're absolutely correct. So when we had Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth on last week, he was going into a lot of that the details of sort of why the government becomes so efficient when they have basically unlimited access to our tax money, and because you can't print your way out of a spending issue, you cannot tax your way out of a spending issue, you cannot borrow your way out of a spending issue, and as Corporeal Being points out, you get more of what you incentivize and less of what you penalize. And we've been incentivizing sloth and I would say, excessive spending for decades. At the beginning of this year, the national debt was $36.1 trillion. And as of today, it's currently $37.8 trillion. So at the end of the day, I mean, there's a level of personal responsibility that if we took better care of our own health, then we would not need as many of these medical programs. If we took better care of our own finances, instead of paying into Social Security, if we had done maybe a 401k or a Roth IRA or some sort of personal investments that would actually be contingent on the market actually performing well, then we would not be having a issue with Social Security potentially becoming insolvent. And a lot of the issues that we have as a nation come down to people that have no business trying to operate the government as a business, trying to operate the government as a business.
Right. And you're so right. And there are perverse incentives, and I don't think it's an active malevolence that people working in government have, but Jerome, I know you found a clip of a whistleblower that really exposed the deep underbelly of abuse of the Social Security system and the welfare system, really thereby when it comes to illegal aliens. Listen.
This is insanity.
Yes, it is insanity.
But in order to get Social Security disability benefits, don't you need a Social Security number?
Well, we were instructed in the meeting that one of the first things we were supposed to do was sign them up for Social Security. Yeah.
Wait, this is unbelievable. So they come over here and they get a Social Security number.
Right.
They become legal.
Correct.
Are you pulling my leg?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
And then after we processed them for a Social Security card, then we were to process them for a U.S. passport.
No.
Okay. And on it goes. Now, okay, that woman is blowing the whistle. How many people got their Social Security disability benefits and their passport and, maybe an Obama phone and some healthcare insurance and whatever else on your dime before she blew the whistle? And the laws are designed to do that too, largely by people who want votes. They buy votes with your taxpayer money. This is not a complicated equation. It has to do fundamentally with consolidation of control and support of your life at central federal levels, which is absolutely antithetical to our constitutional form of a Republican government. That's no longer taught in our schools, apparently, unless you homeschool or you send your child to a school that believes in. That's one of the very fundamental things that schools should do, is teach those first principles of the genius of our Constitution. And so when the foundation is not constructed right and is allowed to crumble, everything else crumbles on top of it. And we've lost our foundational principle, which we need to return to. The Republicans are desperately trying to do just a little bit of that. I mean, just a little bit of that. Foundation recovery, you might call it. Just put a couple of piers in to hold up the foundation. Can we all, the Republicans are saying, Dems, can we all agree that if you came here illegally, you probably shouldn't have the same healthcare card that hardworking, struggling Americans get? Can we just agree there? Democrats didn't want to admit it. They didn't want to talk about it, but they wanted to strike that provision that in fact accomplished that very thing. That's largely what this is about. because the Democrats know that a dependent voter is a dependable vote. They know it. They live by it. That's their means to their end, because power is all to them. Let's not kid ourselves, though. The Republicans have been complicit over the decades with that as well. And ultimately, you ask yourself, and I ask myself the question, and this is the one that stings. Are the people pointing the finger at the wrong direction towards the politician? Maybe that finger needs to be pointed at the mirror or directly back at ourselves. We, the people, elect these people. So I think it ultimately falls back on us. We'll see what Virginia Kruta says about the shutdown when we return on the Tobler Show. Later on, we talk to Josh McConkey. It's at 8:25, and that will be about this Quantico meeting. I was fascinated by Pete Hegseth and his speech there, and the general's reaction, and Trump's reaction to the general's reaction. We have a lot to talk about yet in the last hour and 20 minutes we're with you. And then after that, of course, it'll be the big money show, of course, with Bob and Eric. Stay tuned for more on the Randy Tobler Show on News Talk STL 1019 94.1. Back in 5.
Let me go the problem. Do all that you can.
You're the most cold-blooded man I've ever known.
Why, thank you, Doctor.
News, analysis, opinion.
National Guard troops posted around the district.
We are removing many criminals from the streets.
I think the president made the right call on it.
That's too much. We don't need troops in the city.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey, Colombo here for Intervine, a great local company that has customers all across the country due to the quality of their products. Intervine has the best flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, and even batteries, including the new Monster 2000 Lumen waterproof lantern and the Sentinel 2000 self-defense flashlight. Our home and vehicles are full of great Intervine products, and right now you can shop their website and get 25% off your entire purchase just by using my name, Tony, as your promo code. That's promo code Tony at Intervine.com.
When precision matters, trust the experts who live and breathe firearms. Full Circle Reloading and Firearms. Veteran-owned and operated by competitive shooters who know what it takes to win. From reloading supplies and accessories to custom rifles and cutting-edge night vision, we've got everything you need. Plus, get precision rifle training from the pros. Full Circle Reloading and Firearms. 923 South 5th Street in St. Charles, or visit FullCircleReloading.com.
Simply Health with Dr. Brian Deloney.
Are you ready to take your health to the next level? I'm teaming up with Coach Caleb Summers, a powerhouse in strength, nutrition, and deep health coaching. Together, we're going to show you how lifestyle and functional medicine combine for unstoppable results. So tune in. You're definitely not going to want to miss this.
Simply Health, Saturdays at noon on News Talk STL. To find out more about Simply Health Integrated Medical, log on to simplyhealthintegrated.com.
Fall is here, and Daniel's Farm and Greenhouse has everything you need to make your yard shine. From vibrant mums and fall blooms to pumpkins, gourds, and seasonal containers that will make your neighbors jealous. Need trees, shrubs, or vegetables? We got you covered with 15 greenhouses of full quality plants, mulch, soil, and winter protection supplies. Our family knowledgeable staff is here to help you 7 days a week. Daniel's Farm and Greenhouse, family owned and your outdoor experts. On Juggerman and St. Peter's and at danielsfarminggreenhouse.com.
Jamie Allman here for O'Fallon Family Floors. Experience the passion. Oh, yeah. You can go in and see the best variety, the best pricing, the best quality, the best personalized service right there off of Highway K in O'Fallon, or you can have the store come to you. Oh, yeah. Brian and his team take great pride in running a fantastic flooring outlet, and you can get their 5-star ratings right there on Google. Just check it out. It's O'Fallon Family Floors, O'FallonFamilyFloors.com.
Colombo here for my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton. The knowledgeable staff at Bluff City has served the St. Louis outdoor community for decades, and they can take care of all your bow hunting needs, all your trapping needs, all your fishing needs, and more. Plus, while you're there, you can schedule a trip with a local fishing guide and shoot in their archery range. Bluff City Outdoors is open 7 days a week, 1 mile east of Fast Eddie's at 2813 East Broadway in Alton. Follow them on Facebook and at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com.
Today, at my direction, each service will ensure that every requirement for every combat MOS, for every designated combat arms position, returns to the highest male standard only. This is not about preventing women from serving. We very much value the impact of female troops. Our female officers and NCOs are the absolute best in the world. But when it comes to any job that requires physical power to perform in combat, those physical standards must be high and gender neutral. If women can make it, excellent. If not, it is what it is. If that means no women qualify for some combat jobs, so be it. That is not the intent, but it could be the result, so be it. It will also mean that weak men won't qualify because we're not playing games.
Well, that was Pete Hegseth in his, I think, maybe unprecedented type speech at Quantico to the generals the other day, all from all around the globe. All the brass were in, and it's been widely criticized as an attempt to be patent. He talked about his book that he wrote, a little self-aggrandizing. Others have said, hey, it's about time. I agree with the content. Let's see what Virginia Kruta says. You know a little bit about serving in the military, Virginia. What say you about Pete's speech, both its delivery and the content?
It's about time. That's honestly my initial reaction to the entire thing. It's about time, because he is absolutely correct. The standards for combat MOSs have to be high, because if you are talking about a situation where a soldier might have to drag a buddy off the battlefield, like literally, that person's weight isn't going to change just because the person dragging them happens to be female and smaller and have met a lower standard to get that job.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to, like, the physical requirements of the job do not change. Therefore, the physical standards should not change. And so when he says this, and what I think is interesting is all the people who are like, well, you want to get women out of roles. Well, if you believe that this will take women out of service roles, then you are saying that women aren't qualified for it. Pete Hegseth never said that. He just said this is the standard.
Yeah.
And whether you're male or female, you meet it or you don't do the job.
And that's right. I mean, he was not taking any sides on this, right? He said, look, there's a certain mission when you're in combat that may need to be fulfilled. We got to make sure that we can meet that standard. And whether you're boy, girl, whatever, it doesn't matter. Got to meet the standard. I mean, that seems to be a throwback to the way it used to be, right? I mean, this is nothing terribly new.
Yeah, yes. No, it is and it isn't, because there have always been different standards for men and women. And I've told this story before, I think on Tony's show, but when the back in World War II, when they first brought women into the Marine Corps, they had the back seat, or the bench seat at the back of a 2-ton truck. They had regulations stated that 8 men could sit on that bench seat, like hip to hip, sit on the seat. Regulation also stated that if women were to be on that bench seat, the capacity was 7. The reason they did that was because they wanted the women to be more comfortable and not like wedged in, not feel like they were wedged in. Of course, the Marines interpreted that differently, and that's how female Marines got the acronym BAM for Big Ass Marine, because they said, well, only 7 people fit on the bench seat. They must be wider. Like, So there have always been different standards, but when you're talking about a standard for for reasons of comfort, as opposed to standards because we want, and I said this, I think on the Dana Lash radio show, gosh, this would have been right when Panetta opened the door for combat MOSs. And I said, look, the first thing that's going to happen is that they're going to open the door, and then women won't meet the standard that's already set, so they'll lower the standard in order to get more women in. And that's exactly what happened. So you see over time that this is what happens, that you have to lower the standard in order to make sure you get enough women to make it clear that you're allowing women to do the job. Because if you simply open the job to women and then make them meet the standards that men have been meeting, obviously you're going to have fewer qualified just because women do not have the same amount of physical power. And this is not a slight. This is not me saying women aren't qualified, because I served in the military and I met the standards required for my job. I was also not in a combat MOS.
Mm-hmm.
I worked in a hospital. I was a radiology tech, and I had to help lift people from stretchers to CT tables and, things like that. I had to help out in the ER. We had combative patients, and we still had to have the ability to put that patient down on the stretcher if you had to, like to put, to take a shoulder and shove it down into and that takes power. When you have you understand this, when you have a combative patient, especially one who's maybe bigger than you are, you have to be able to exert a certain amount of power in order to retain control of the situation. And I was not a very big person, and I was lucky to never be in a situation where I had to handle that all by myself. But when you're talking about combat situations, the likelihood is that you will be by yourself somewhere and have to do that. And it becomes much more important that you meet a more exacting physical standard.
Yeah. I think he was spot on. There's no doubt about it. And I was glad that he also was very resolute in his comments about DEI and getting it out of the military as well.
For sure. And I've told this before too. This has been a long time. The DEI in the military has been a big thing, and especially like when I was at Fort Leonard Wood. So this would have been before 2010. I was in the hospital company at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and there was a long-running joke because every year they had Soldier of the Quarter competitions and Soldier of the Year competitions, where you put on your dress uniform, you stand before a board and answer a bunch of rapid fire questions, and you have to maintain your composure and answer the questions correctly, and et cetera. And you have to go through and you take a PT test, and you have to do all this stuff to qualify. And so, but then, obviously they weed them out, and you have, Soldier of the Quarter finalists, and then Soldier of the Year. At the end of the year, they all compete against each other. And the joke was that if you wanted to go for Soldier of the Quarter or Soldier of the Year, the first requirement was that you couldn't be white. Because if you went into that competition, and you were, especially if you were a white male, you weren't going to win. It didn't matter how good you were not going to win. I was at Fort Leonard Wood for 4.5 years, and we did not have a white male win Soldier of the Quarter the entire time I was there.
Wow. That's interesting. That's news.
And the demographics were about where I was, were about 50% white, 50% not white.
Yeah. Okay.
And the not white was a combination of, we had a few, like the department I worked in, for example, it was probably 25 to 30% Black, and then we had a few Hispanic soldiers, and we had two from Korea, and so it was a pretty good blend of nationalities and stuff. But we didn't, but the hospital company was about 50% white, and you would never see a white soldier win.
All right.
I don't know if it was intentional or if it was like, oh, well, this is.
Well, they're getting marching orders from somewhere, right? I mean, the decision makers, and I think that's going to change. New sheriff in town. Well, this is fabulous insight. I mean, firsthand insight. And I think it really cements the idea that, from changing it from the Department of Defense to the Department of War. And I mean, now we're going to do a war fighting machine. It's good to see. Virginia, thanks for the up close and personal view into what I think was viewed from a high level view as like, wow, it seems awfully revolutionary, but maybe not so. It's exactly what the doctor ordered. Thanks very much, Virginia. Appreciate it. Right, Thank you. All right. Yeah, I think she's got it right there that, there certainly was no overshoot on segregationist attitudes there, right? I mean, if it was 50-50, Jerome, and I guess she probably meant, that meant, a lot of Hispanic and Black soldiers as well. And I don't think they care. I think most of us are sort of already way past that. And it's good to see that Hegseth's going to catch up with the American culture at large.
Yeah, as Allison says, if you cannot pass the physical examination, then you are not physically capable of being a warrior. I mean, it should be that simple, shouldn't it?
Yeah, and this is all in the context of, aren't they saying that up to, 70% of people that apply for the military are struggling? They don't really meet the physical standards, or, it's been incredible. But I think that's a reflection of our larger culture. It's our larger culture. Well, you know what? Donald Trump had some fun with memes with the shutdown. We'll have some fun with that when we come back at 8:05, so you won't want to miss that. And then at 8:25, we talk with Josh McConkey a little bit more about the Quantico, but from the leadership level and what it said to the generals. That coming up on News Talk STL 1019 94.1.
Concerned about the condition of your windows driving up your energy bills? I was too. Until I called STL Windows and Doors. Their Provia windows combine old world craftsmanship the professional way, the Provia way, with over 65 years of combined experience, locally owned, offering competitive pricing and personalized service that the big box companies can't match. Call today for your free in-home estimate and start saving tomorrow. 314-277-5952 or stlwindowsanddoors.com.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA, SIPC.
Located in the heart of St. Charles, Kevin's Guns is your family-owned destination for all things firearms. Whether you're a collector, hunter, or military enthusiast, we have it or can get it for you. From new to used rifles and handguns in every style and caliber, our friendly and knowledgeable staff is here to help educate you and ensure you make the perfect choice for your needs. Buy, sell, or browse our incredible selection at kevinsguns.net or call 636-493-1195. Kevin's Guns, where gun enthusiasts come home.
The Vic Borselli Show.
NPR, guess what? Got defunded, and they're going to close down operations. If they're not going to get federal funding, well, then guess what? There are plenty of radio salespeople out there in the United States who can sell time, big time. You know why they don't sell hire a sales team? Because nobody will buy advertising because they suck so bad.
Oh my God!
You don't see people.
You're so correct. That's it right there.
Vic Borselli, live and local weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
If you turned 65 recently like me, it's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to, so make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you.
800-439-7851. 800-439-7851. 800-439-7851. That's 800-439-7851.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Breaking news at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. Sam Mendick explains some of the details that Hamas says it will accept as part of President Trump's effort to end the fighting in Gaza.
Hamas has said that it accepts elements of U.S. President Donald Trump's peace plan, but that there is still negotiation to be had on other parts of the deal. Hamas has said that it will release all of the hostages, both dead and alive, being held in Gaza, and that it will relinquish power in Gaza. Now, this comes after President Donald Trump gave a warning to Hamas, saying that if they didn't respond by Sunday, that Israel would continue the attacks and that it was their last chance. Trump presented the plan earlier this week.
Correspondent Ed Donahue reports on the arrests of ICE demonstrators near Chicago.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem visited a Chicago area ICE facility as agents detained protesters outside. Noem met with employees at the ICE processing facility in Broadview, Illinois. Outside, the crowd grew over several hours. Some were riled by newly installed barricades. Johnny Bishop is one of the protesters.
We have done our due diligence to make sure that we are in accordance with the laws.
Arrests were made.
This has been happening for our entire history. And people need to realize that it's not just about fighting against Trump, it's fighting for a more humane immigration system that we all deserve.
I'm Ed Donahue.
There's a new North Carolina law following the death of a Ukrainian woman on a train.
North Carolina's Democratic Governor Josh Stein has signed into law a criminal justice measure pushed by the Republican-controlled legislature after a young Ukrainian woman was stabbed to death on a Charlotte train. The new law bars cashless bail for certain violent crimes and limits discretion in pretrial release decisions. The bill's authors are also seeking to restart executions in North Carolina. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
More of these stories at townhall.com.
Whether you're climbing the corporate ladder, launching a new project, or just looking for that extra edge, your brain is your most valuable asset. And now there's a way to support it every day. Think Factor. From the makers of Relief Factor, Think Factor is built to help you stay sharp, nurture your memory, and boost your attention. It unlocks the mental clarity and precision you need to stay ahead of the game no matter the challenge. For me, it's been a game changer. I have never had such clarity, focus, and concentration before. I love telling you about Think Factor. If you're a go-getter who refuses to settle, Think Factor helps you perform at your best and keep your edge. Call 800-4-RELIEF. 800-4-RELIEF or visit relieffactor.com to order Think Factor. That's 800-4-RELIEF or go to relieffactor.com for Think Factor. Your first bottle, just $19.95. Think Factor. I'll bet it'll be a game changer for you like it has been for me. Think Factor. Think clearer, perform better daily. Think Factor.
For 100 years, Tom Shaw Realtors helping folks buy or sell, but also helping the community. He wanted this paid commercial to promote the Tom Shaw Walk for Alzheimer's, Sunday, October 12. More details at shawrealtors.com.
Kathy Connor from Connor Roofing is here. Kathy, how you doing?
Good. Hi, Vic.
You know, when you need a roof, I don't want to call a stranger. I want to call you.
Yeah, thanks. At Connor Roofing, we're more than just a roofing company.
How long you been doing it?
Since 1993.
And year after year, storm after storm, you guys are always there.
Because this is our home too, Vic. Our kids go to school with your kids. We cheer for the same teams. Go Blues!
So support your neighbors. Call Connor Roofing at 314-375-7475 or CONNER roofing.com.
Thanks, Vic.
Are the days of a personal doctor gone? Not at Body of Health Direct Primary Care. I'm Dr. Randy Tobler to share how our design is putting the care back into healthcare. Plain and simple, our members, not insurance companies, get our exclusive focus. That means same or next day appointments, responsive answers to your concerns, and a no-spin, big tool chest approach. It's about time you get serious time devoted to your medical needs. To learn about healthcare the way it ought to be, schedule a discovery call today at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
The Napoli heritage of fine dining continues with Napoli Kirkwood. Napoli Kirkwood, now open. So add that to Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C. And don't forget about Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district, Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, plus now, open, Napoli, Kirkwood.
With a My Social Security account, you can request a replacement Social Security card, estimate your benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
This hour of the Randy Tobler Show brought to you by Advanced Dentistry Now. Doctors Dan Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer. 636-978-0226 or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer on News Talk STL. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. This is News Talk STL.
Well, the Democrats are demanding free health care for illegal aliens. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have been clear. They will not fund law enforcement. They will not fund the military. They will not fund public safety. They will not fund the operations of the federal government that your tax dollars pay for unless they get free health care for illegal aliens. That is the biggest losing message and the biggest losing argument in American history. We will see if there's enough Democrat senators who are dumb enough to follow Chuck Schumer off the edge of that cliff.
And the battle goes on the Schumer shutdown. I can tell you that so far, as best I can tell, military folks, unlike the previous shutdown, have not been told that they're going to get a paycheck when the next one in about a little less than a week and a half now comes up. Well, about a week and a half. Because in the first shutdown that happened, the last shutdown, they passed a resolution right away that protected military pay. And that has not, to my knowledge, been done yet. We're talking about shutdown. What does it mean for you? What does it mean for the country? What does it tell you about the various political aspirants, AOC, nipping at the tails of Chuck Schumer? And now suddenly he's taking a hard line. He caved back in the spring, didn't he? So we'll see where that goes. But of course, as he will do, Donald Trump, in his pithy and sardonic way, will use social media to his total advantage. Of course, the meme that came out earlier this week caused all the fanfare and all the flurry. It went viral. Here it is.
Look, guys, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Nobody likes Democrats anymore. We have no voters left because of all of our woke trans bullshit. Not even black people want to vote for us anymore. Even Latinos hate us. So we need new voters. And if we give all these illegal aliens free health care, we might be able to get them on our side so they can vote for us. They can't even speak English, so they won't realize we're just a bunch of woke pieces of at least for a while, until they learn English and they realize they hate us too.
You know what? That was a brilliant bit of AI. We had to censor some of the Bravo Sierra talk in there, But that was, of course, a parody on when Jeffries and Schumer came out after the failed meeting, that last meeting before the shutdown vote earlier in the week. And they come out and they talk to the microphones there in front of the White House. And of course, the memester put a sombrero on Jeffries with a mustache. and the mariachi music is playing in the background. Now, of course, you can predict whenever there's a shooting, you can predict it's only a matter of how long. It's not if, it's how, when will the Democrats and their allies and their proxies in the media start talking about gun control. Well, the same way in this instance, whenever the Democrats don't get their way and whenever anything is done that might hurt their favorite would-be voters and sometimes illegal voters, and in some municipal elections and state elections, legal voting, they're illegal aliens that they love to bring in, and those who are deemed legal when they're really not, the people that flood in this country and abrogate our laws. Now, so of course, having seen the pushback from Jeffries and other calling that meme racist. I don't know what's racist about it. The point he was trying to make was Trump in that meme was that, of course, Schumer is basically under his breath saying through that AI character exactly what the Democrats know. and the way they speak about their voters, they look down on them. They think they need them. They think they're unwilling to take care of themselves. Voters that Democrat socialist redistributionist policies. And we know that probably the most dependent of those voters are the new people coming into this country that they fully endorsed, look the other way, were apathetic about, under the Biden administration. And I don't know, the last time I looked, Jerome, those people were mostly of Hispanic origin. So, of course, it makes sense to put a sombrero and a mustache on them. I mean, it's not a racist thing. It's talking about where they're coming from and their heritage and their ethnic culture. It's not making fun of them. It's recognizing a reality. And, of course, Jeffries went on MSNBC and he was whining about it. And, of course, Trump took advantage of that. Here that is.
It's a disgusting video, and we're going to continue to make clear bigotry will get you nowhere. We are fighting to protect the health care of the American people in the face of an unprecedented Republican assault.
They flipped from him in a straight interview. Who was that? With Chris O'Donnell, or I think so. O'Donnell is his name anyway, I think. And then all of a sudden, up pops a complete AI'd mariachi band, all of them, Donald Trump playing a trumpet and a guitar. And some have said, oh, that's not very presidential. And that's, look, I would have rather if Stephen Miller would have put it on his page, but there's a difference between just enjoying the content and then you can have a discussion about whether he should or shouldn't have done it. I think it was perfectly fine. And that's just part of our American rough and ready, sharp elbows political culture. We've seen it throughout. Look, in the 1800s, look at some of the political ads, some of the things that have been said from the stump, some of the Oppo ads that have been said over and over and again in the tabloids throughout our history. So that's just rolls. Now, J.D. Vance was asked at a press conference what he thought about the Democrats' reaction, calling it racist and how dare he. And he actually, it was a beautiful clip and he laughed it off. Here it is.
So the president's been posting some images of Leader Jeffries and Senator Schumer.
I saw
recently. You've said that you're interested in good faith negotiations with these leaders, but what message does that send? Is it helpful just post pictures of Leader Jeffries in a sombrero if you're trying to have good faith talks with him?
Oh, I think it's funny. The president's joking, and we're having a good time. You can negotiate in good faith while also poking a little bit of fun at some of the absurdities of the Democrats' positions, and even poking some fun at the absurdity of the Democrats themselves. I mean, I'll tell Hakeem Jeffries right now, I make this solemn promise to you that if you help us reopen the government, the sombrero memes will stop. And I've talked to the president of the United States about that. Now,
and it's interesting that I don't think in Trump 1 that the gaggle of reporters would have laughed, but they all joined in laughing and, getting a kick out of J.D. Vance saying, I solemnly promise the sombrero and mustache will go away. I think the Democrats are absolutely looking like a bunch of petty fools in this instance. They clearly should own this and are owning it. I mean, there's a Washington Post poll out that allegedly showed that it wasn't, but that the independents were actually more against the GOP than the Dems on this count. I don't agree with that. I think it's a Washington Post, composted, cooked up poll, no doubt. Other polls have said opposite. But of course, the war of the messaging continues on. It looks like the sides are at a standoff. The House of Representatives has gone home. They said, we've done our job. Mike Johnson said, we'll call you back with a 48-hour notice if the Senate decides to get their act together. They took their vote yesterday. Well, they got to a procedural vote to bust the filibuster, which didn't work. So for all practical purposes, there's been 4 votes now, and no one's budging. Where it all ends, I don't know. I think that there will probably be a lot that the senators will be hearing when they go back home and talk to their constituents. You would hope that some reasonable, rational, and level-headed Democrat senators may change their mind. I'm not sure that a lot's going to change, though. What's going to change between, let's say that they do in the next week or so fund the government. What's going to change in the next then 6 weeks in mid-November, I mean, the Democrats are going to demand the same policy changes that they're demanding. And I think there is an area of vulnerability for the GOP here. And that is there's roughly 20 million Americans that under the Biden expansion of tax credit subsidies for Obamacare insurance holders. So people on the individual marketplace, for their families or themselves on the marketplace got tax credits in the way of subsidies. That's an indirect subsidy to help make their premiums more affordable. Now, when you look at what they're actually paying, it's really a very small amount of what what maybe you and I would pay, right? So their premiums could go up significantly if that part of the GOP plan is not struck. Whether or not that should happen is, I think, a political discussion. I feel sorry for those people, but I think, frankly, if they were allowed to have a catastrophic Obamacare plan, one doesn't exist. Obamacare plans are overinsurance. They're overinsurance. It insures way too much, as does most of our insurance. We're all overinsured, and it costs us just unbelievable amounts of money, whether it's through your employer not paying you in a paycheck, but paying your premium or part of it instead, or whether it's you paying it. A better way to go would be to allow people to have catastrophic coverage for those surgeries, ER visits, hospitalizations, and you could decide where you wanted to calibrate what's called catastrophic, and let them go out and buy a primary care direct to primary care doctor or direct to specialist, any kind of thing. Let those small ticket items, which would become much smaller ticket items, if we all were allowed to contribute to the marketplace and letting a truly free market go, not the predefined benefit plan that is way, way too rich. Hey, I saw a study, Eric Burleson, Congressman Burleson sent me a study that showed that probably it's a large amount. I think it was 40 or 55%. It was a significant amount of claimants that own Obamacare policies. Those policies have not had one claim made on them. They go unused. What does that mean? That means, and there's some pretty good evidence that actually people are being auto-enrolled, perhaps illegals, perhaps other people are being auto-enrolled in these plans, and they're not being used. So there's a lot of fraud and waste and abuse in the whole Obamacare program as well. I could go on and on about it, but I think we ought to step aside and then make some room for Josh McConkey, Colonel Dr. Josh McConkey. We'll talk with him when we come back in just a few about Quantico, about the shutdown, about leadership. He wrote a book about leadership, and I think in terms of how there's such a big gaping hole in leadership across these United States, from our academic institutions to our educational institutions to our courthouses, our city houses in many blue jurisdictions, our state houses, and of course at the federal government level. What does leadership mean? He's a combat surgeon. He knows a little bit about that. So we'll talk with Josh in just a few when we come back on the Tobler Show. News Talk STL 1019-94.1. Thanks for being here.
Okay, esto es mucho simple. El Democrat Party es mucho retardo, okay? Mucho retardo. Especially el Hakimo Jeffries y el Chucko Schumer. They are extra retardo. So El Presidente and I cannot negotiate with these Democrat retardos. It's imposibly. Mucho imposibly. Gracias, amigos. Oh, and make sure you El voto for LJD Vanso in El 2028.
Hey, let's talk about your dental health. You know, we've been talking a lot about disruption in all the right ways in the medical system, in our healthcare system. Of course, dental health is at the core of so many problems you may not know of. I mean, if you're grinding your teeth and you have problems there, that can lead to poor night's sleep, which then can lead to other problems from hypertension to diabetes, inflammation in and around your teeth. The gums specifically can be a big problem. You know, they cover all of these things at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles. When you go in and you're getting your care through one of the hygienists, and then, of course, Dr. Dwyer, Dr. Cusimano, they come in and they take a look at you and make sure everything's good. always an educational component there as well. And then, if needed, all the way from regular restorative and just preventative dentistry to cosmetic dentistry to now fillers and Botox, whether it's for cosmetic regions or in the Botox for TMJ, very, very helpful there. And yes, those same day crowns, I love those. I've had family members who have benefited from that too. So they cover all of the advanced dentistry you need in all the most old-fashioned personalized way. That's Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles at advanceddentistrynow.com. advanceddentistrynow.com.
Opinion.
Don't always agree, but in love listening to your radio station. This is tyrannical stuff they're doing.
Elections have consequences. This is 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
During tax season, your personal info travels to a lot of places you can't control. Between payroll, your home office, your tax preparer, and the IRS, if your W-2 gets exposed, that's just the ticket for identity thieves. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity's stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed or your money back. Don't let identity thieves take you for a ride. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code CLAY. Visit LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go. Shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit notimetowait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Looking for the best selection of firearms in the St. Louis region? Drive to Osage County Guns. Conveniently located off I-70, just 25 minutes from St. Charles. We've got thousands of guns in stock, the largest selection of handguns, rifles, and shotguns around. Trade in or sell your old guns for cash and shop our wide variety of premium Winchester ammunition made right here in the USA. Visit us online at ocgmo.com, or better yet, make the drive to Osage County Guns and see why we're the St. Louis region's favorite.
Looking for treasures from the past? Discover Mimi's Antiques Attic, your locally owned and family-operated treasure hunt destination. Explore 16,000 square feet of antiques, crafts, collectibles, and designer items across 225 unique rental spaces. Open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 7, and Sundays, 10 to 6 at 1000 Warrenton Shops in Warrenton. Mimi's Antiques Attic, where every visit uncovers new treasures.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Did Donald Trump and Republicans make everything great again over the weekend? We'll discuss with Senator Jim Talon at 425. At 525, Red State Headlines with Susie Moore.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
This is Larry Connors. Right now, you're listening to Dr. Randy Tobler. Informative, engaging, enjoy. And I invite you to listen to the Larry Connors USA Daily Report, Monday through Friday at 6.
This administration has done a great deal from day one to remove the social justice, politically correct, and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department, to rip out the politics. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. No more debris. As I've said before, and will say again, we are done with that.
Well, that was Pete Hegseth mincing no words in a talk to brass from around the world, called back for a big powwow at Quantico. Pete Hegseth, of course, Secretary of now the Department of War, not the Department of Defense. And following him, President Trump spoke. We get some feedback now for a guy who knows a little bit about military service. His name is Dr. Josh McConkey. He's an Air Force colonel, combat surgeon, author of Be the Weight Behind the Spear. And oh, by the way, candidate for Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina. Welcome into the program.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on this morning.
All right. So from Doc to Doc, can I call you? Do you want to be called Doc or Colonel or what do you prefer? Josh, what do you like?
Yeah, anything you want, just not late for dinner, right?
Yeah, there you go. Hey, it's really a pleasure and it's a privilege to talk to you. I have a son-in-law who's an SF guy, and I never served, so I'm always a little humble. I'm very humbled when I'm in the presence of someone who has. But what was your overall? If you were to put yourself, Josh, in the place of one of the generals sitting there, how would you have processed that? We have seen some retired generals on the left-wing media come out and diss the whole thing and say it was disrespectful of Hegseth. We've seen a couple of resignations. How would you, were you in that audience, have processed what you heard?
So I've served for over 23 years. I was prior Army, served in combat, carried the body bags of America's heroes off the battlefields in Iraq. Now as an Air Force commander, I just finished a command tour at Andrews Air Force Base. Your job as a military commander is to hold people accountable. And for the last several years, I have seen there's two classes of airmen. You hold everyone accountable except the senior leadership. So what's been going on is they've been playing all these games. So they come to the flight surgeon, they come to the physician, and they find some captain or some major they outrank by, these are 2 or 3 star generals. And they get out of doing fitness testing and PT profiles. They find some little Mickey Mouse excuse. I have some knee pain. Like, never mind that the knee pain is actually because you're 50, 60, 70 pounds overweight, right? I mean, this is common sense. Yeah. But they have not been holding themselves accountable. I was so happy to hear that. It's something I've been railing on for several years. And to now have that top cover from the President of the United States himself and the Secretary of War, it was really music to my ears. And any combat veteran understands why those standards are so important. I haven't heard a single combat veteran not be happy with those statements.
You're running for lieutenant governor in North Carolina. You wrote a book on leadership, The Weight Behind the Spear. And I think of this tragic incident that has gotten national highlights or national attention with the stabbing of that Ukrainian girl coming home from her job at a pizza joint, Irina Zarutska.
Irina Zarutska. Oh.
Let's talk about the vacancy of leadership, not yesterday or last week or the week before, but decades. Apparently, that's what it takes. It's got to be a long-term vacancy of leadership at many levels, right? Governance, state house, prosecutorial, the courtroom. What's been wrong with leadership that ultimately ends up in something like this unbelievable, horrific event happening? And what would you advise leaders presently now to do to right that ship?
So this comes down to simple accountability. It's no different than the military issues when you don't keep people accountable. It's insidious. It's across all of the current leadership, including North Carolina. So when you uncouple people's decisions and choices from accountability, that's how you get magistrate judges that will hunt a guy through the system. 14 times this gentleman was arrested and just kicked straight out the door with these lax, soft on crime bills, cashless bail, punted out 14 times, and he murdered a completely innocent woman coming home from her job at the pizza joint. On camera, everybody watching, it was horrific, and it's lack of accountability. We will get back to accountability in North Carolina. I will personally assure to it.
Yeah, and it's really good to hear that. I think, you see that incident in North Carolina. Earlier, we played this just heart-wrenching testimony of Stephen Frederico, the father of Logan Frederico in South Carolina, where, again, he'd been arrested, 39 times, and he'd spent 600 days in jail. It's like the same book, different chapter, right? And we see it all across the country. And I think, you're just seeing this wave of exactly what you're talking about. It's accountability. Why is it that if Colonel Dr. Josh McConkey buys a new car, as I just had to do, and you can only have that temp license plate for so long, And you got to obey that law. You got to pay your taxes. We all do that. And we look at whether it's illegal immigrants on the one hand or career criminals on the other hand. Seems like there's just a double standard of justice for the people that are lawful versus the people that are lawless. And it's got to stop.
There's a significant portion of the country, in some places, it's almost half the country that have just uncoupled from reality. From basic biology to military to crime, they're just policies that don't work. They've been proven to fail. People are being murdered because of these policies and these policy failures. And if you even look as far back as you look at some decisions during COVID, so you have South Carolina and North Carolina, right? Very similar populations.
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina was pretty free and wide open. North Carolina, Roy Cooper, who now wants to promote himself to U.S. Senate, shut down churches, schools, and burned businesses to the ground. Just fomented a huge mental health crisis in an entire population of North Carolina youth that I now see as an emergency physician: anxiety, depression, suicide. We have to hold these leaders accountable. But that lack of accountability is what's leading to these issues, and I think we'll take care of that here in North Carolina.
Let's talk a little bit about your emergency physician role. Earlier, we talked with Arthur from the Center for Immigration Studies, because I was interested in, as it relates to this whole shutdown issue and, healthcare, Obamacare for illegals and so forth. I've run a little hospital, Safety Net Hospital. I've obviously worked in them and independent practice as well. Spent some time as a consulting doc in, a specialist in the ER. Man, my ER buddies tell me that I don't care whether they're at the border, wherever they're at, the illegal invasion that happened during Biden has affected access to care from people paying the bills. But yet, you obviously ethically, we take care of everyone that presents, but it really presents a problem, both in terms of access with this illegal invasion. Can you comment on that? Have you had impact on during your experience?
So, as an emergency physician, I take tremendous pride in bringing the safety net for the nation, right? We take care of all comers, regardless of ability to pay.
Right.
But the simple fact is, these policy failures are leading to rampant, just overcrowding in our emergency department. The system is crashing. It cannot handle that. You let in 10 million illegal immigrants in the span of just a couple years, and that's taking away from your ability to help American citizens. Like, not that we wouldn't take care of everybody, but you look at those very simple things. I can't change that as an emergency physician, but let me tell you, as Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina, I can have an impact there. And that's one of the very many reasons why I'm getting involved in politics, because when I go to work every day, I'm just beating my head against the wall. The same thing over and over and over, from crime to illegal immigration to the fentanyl crisis coming across that completely unsecured border that fortunately President Trump has now stepped up and taken care of. But you see these policy failures. We need more physicians and leadership in this country, because we see, what's going on at the very basic levels down in the gutters. I've been practicing medicine for 23 years.
And I guess you've seen the impact and the fallout from the fentanyl crisis as well. No thanks to Joe Biden.
Oh man, I've sat down. Hundreds and hundreds of times over 20 some years, sat down and with families and parents and cried with them. I'm sorry, your son or daughter are dead. It rips your heart out every single time, and it wears on you. It's a huge emotional burden, and we're going to do something about that now.
All right. Well, Colonel Dr. Josh McConkey, it's a pleasure to have you on the program and a real privilege of ours. Again, the book is Be the Weight Behind the Spear. It's really an inspiration read, and folks can get it at all the usual players, right?
Absolutely. And if you guys want to learn more about our campaign to bring purpose-driven leadership to North Carolina, you can go to StrongerNC.com.
Stronger NC. My daughter and son-in-law just moved from Fort Bragg down to Fort Campbell, and he'll be in, I think, the 5th SF down there. So we spent a little time in and around North Carolina. Beautiful place. And hopefully you'll make it more politically beautiful and safer as well for everyone. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, there he is. Well, that's good, man. I'd sure like to see a guy like that get some traction politically. I'd like to see candidates with that kind of an ethic, that kind of a worldview, and the values to be elevated to leadership. We need more leaders like that throughout the country. And it just seems so simple when you hear it, doesn't it? Accountability, and connecting that to the behavior. When we talk about that, one of the things that continues to run through my mind is the tremendous delay in the justice system, especially with the most heinous of crimes, between the time of the transgression and the punishment. It seems that especially in this, ever-changing, way too busy, short attention span news cycle, and Jerome, we've talked about this before, but I think about it with the Charlie Kirk incidents, for instance. How long will it be before that guy's brought to justice and brought to a firing squad? I'd like to see that fire. I'd like to see when that happens. People have criticized me for this, but I think at the right level, perhaps maybe at high school level, I'd like to see when that happens, and I hope it should happen within months, years of the execution of Charlie Kirk. That young, deranged animal he should be executed by firing squad, and that should be then shown by closed circuit TV. But before that, immediately before that, show Charlie Kirk shooting. You do this, this is what happens to you, and show that to high school kids, all of them, at a big assembly, and let them know that I'm sorry. I think instead of a feel good foo-foo kumbaya assembly, we need some fire and brimstone assemblies. I don't know what we're doing with kumbaya and endless grace and excuses for, everyone's had trauma in their life, but because you've had trauma doesn't mean you can go out and kill someone. Because you had bad parenting, well, someone needs to pick up the parenting mantle, and I guess that must be our schools. I mean, I remember only once when I was a kid, I had a little potty mouth. I don't know if it was Lifebuoy or Zest, but I tasted a little soap. And it happened right away. It wasn't, I'm going to wait till your dad gets home and we're going to have a discussion. And then you can argue your case. And then a lawyer can have an appeal. And then you can run it up to the Supreme Court. No. And then the governor, you can appeal to the governor. No. There was swift, certain, and I'll tell you, severe consequences for my potty mouth. I just think that we need that. And that's what resonated through our discussion with Josh McConkey. Accountability matters.
Yeah, that's something that I've noticed is slowly being lost in society in general, is the feeling of shame and guilt for doing bad things. It seems actually the opposite direction, especially with the rise of social media and how young people are giving their kids, iPhones and iPads and stuff, is that it trains them very early on to sort of feel a sense of reward, a good dopamine rush for engaging in behaviors that are not productive, that are not beneficial. And especially once they get into high school, some of these kids are doing things that are actively criminal and actively dangerous and menacing to society. And they feel that sense of reward for doing that. And then their peers think it's funny or interesting. And so they reward them. And we've just lost a sense of shame. I mean, there's a difference between shaming somebody else versus having that internalized feeling of, I did something that was wrong. I did something bad. And now my body is reacting and letting me know, hey, this does not feel good to do this to people. And so that's something, I mean, is the solution to go more Old Testament with it, though? Or is it something that we're going to need a serious overhaul with the entire philosophy of how we're handling society? Because a lot of people are against hitting kids, but I'll hit your kid for you if you don't want to do it yourself. I mean, if that's what it's going to take to get some discipline and guidance going on to these to the youth.
Well, I like the way you put that. Should we go Old Testament? Are you referencing my?
Well, you're talking about putting the footage of Charlie Kirk and his assassin
that
Yes.
footage into high schools and showing that as an example. I mean,
yeah,
I don't necessarily disagree, but I also think that it doesn't resonate
you
the
do.
same way. I'll put it this way. We watched, in the DARE program when it came to drugs, right? We all knew you watched these footages of the person getting, drunk drive, the mom crying, all that stuff. And yet I still had classmates that right after we got out of the DARE program would go and they would light up a joint outside of the school. So versus, that personalized approach that you did this, you specifically now have to have that experience of what the consequence is. And that's something that we don't hold each other accountable enough. We don't hold.
Well, no, look, I say that because I know that when you advocate for one thing, you'll get that thing minus about 50% of what you asked for. I just think we need to send loud and clear messages to children that while we recognize and we will help you with whatever kind of problems you've had, whatever kind of trauma you've experienced. I know that very, very intimately from my care of patients for over 30 years. That when people suffer trauma, they will, hurt people. That's true.
Yes.
Hurt people don't generally kill people. And I think that if we were to employ my methodology at earlier levels and lower levels of crime, I don't think that we would have to use it at higher levels of crime, because I truly believe that we would modify those behaviors and help people understand the difference between right and wrong and accountability if we rendered them more accountable at earlier and at lower levels of criminality. I'm always worried by we talked with Kimberly Kowalski, a listener and a friend and just a wonderful, wonderful woman who lost her husband, who was shot in the line of duty, a police officer. She herself was a police officer. And then he died of those injuries later after a long agonizing illness.
Tragic.
And she talked about the difference between violent criminals and nonviolent criminals. Well, I don't know. I'd like to think that I would motion that we start to think of violence as more than just against people. In other words, if we separate violence as only when you attack me and you hit me, you shoot me, you stab me, you rape me. Look, it's violent to me. It's a violent act when you break a window. That takes a lot of beef to do that. It's violence against people's property. It's not against their body, but it's against their property. And I think if a young person is cheating in school, yeah, I agree with you, Jerome. Let's put a ruler to their fanny. And let's send a clear message over and over and over again, rather than say, well, I understand that, you've had trauma in your life, and so we'll let you get away with it. Is that really helping that person? I don't know. I just don't. That's the current status we have. We excuse away behavior rather than explain it. There's a difference between explaining that kind of misbehavior and saying, okay, we understand that happened because maybe this person wasn't taught, or maybe they saw violence in their home and so they think that's okay. It's our job as a society, through law enforcement, through schools, I'd like to think through churches and other family members who love people, and we've got to find a way of, as brains are developing, young brains are developing and wiring is being connected, to make sure it gets connected in the right way. Not wait until rehab time after they've raped or murdered or stabbed or shot someone. And maybe a little shock therapy is needed. All right, well, let's see what you all think. 314-912-1019. Old Testament? I think it's a both and. We need some Old Testament fire and brimstone, and we need a heck of a lot of grace at the same time, at the same level, though, or at a lower level, before it turns into calamity for someone else. Be back.
Piano man, sing us a song tonight. Well, we're all in the mood for a melody, and you got us feeling all right.
Have you thought about, not doing that?
News, news, analysis, opinion.
Historic meeting between European leaders, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and President Trump.
We want to stop the killing, get this settled. 101.9 and 94.1.
We'll want peace.
News Talk STL.
Jamie Allman here with the Allman Report. Pleased to be with Jordan Rosenblum. Google the bagel loan. That's what it's all about. Jordan, tell me about purchasing a home, brother.
Purchasing a home right now, it's a tough market. You're going to see a lot of competition. On the bagel loan that we have, you're going to have no closing costs, no title fees, no appraisal fees, no lender fees. Saves an average client almost $4,000 on a transaction. Customer service, unbelievable. Text, call anytime.
As I know, as a real estate agent, Google the bagel loan. Google the bagel loan, folks.
NMLS number 226715.
Looking for unbelievable deals? Stop by Overstock Outlet in Lake St. Louis or Warrenton. Open 7 days a week. Discover big savings on a huge variety of merchandise with no hassle. Just great prices. Visit us in Lake St. Louis on Highway N or in Warrenton on Boones Lake. Check out our Facebook page at Overstock Outlet Lake St. Louis or go online to overstockoutletstl.com. Unbeatable value, friendly service, and you never know what we'll have at Overstock Outlet.
Retirement planning used to be easy. You put in your 40 years with the company, get the gold watch, and life's good, right? Wrong. Randy Tobler here. Planning for retirement today involves balancing critical decisions regarding your investments, pensions, Social Security, and more. That's why I'm urging you to start planning now. It's also why you should connect with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. They bring a combined 100 years of wealth management experience to help you with your retirement plan. You can hear Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert every Saturday morning at 9 during On the Money here on News Talk STL 1019. Their team is ready to help you design your retirement plan with the care and commitment you deserve. Request your complimentary retirement plan consultation today at clearpathinvesting.com or call 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company, Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Yo, this is Vic. Vic for Vets is proudly honoring our veterans. Every Wednesday at 11:05, you'll hear about that day's honoree and their incredible service to our country.
Hi, it's Ken. You want to nominate a veteran? Send their name, service information, and story to me, Ken, at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Brought to you by Heroes Care, Alamo Military Collectibles, and Monocle's Pizza.
Together, let's celebrate the heroes in our community. Vic for Vets, where honor meets gratitude.
Hi, I'm Rodney Wallner.
And I'm Jen Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Jen, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission plan?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What's the best time to sell your home?
Right now, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, brought to you by Advanced Dentistry Now. Doctors Dan Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer. 636-978-0226 or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com.
That's life. That's life. That's what all the people say.
Protect the health care.
You're riding high in April, shot down in May.
Dr. Tobler, not just a doctor, but a broadcast professional on News Talk STL.
Well, we try with your help, aiding and abetting my delinquency here on the air. All right, maybe showing high schoolers the execution of Charlie Kirk's killer is not such a good idea. Well, maybe it is. I don't know.
I mean, I am not against bringing back public executions. Just saying, I mean, as a sign of we got a community justice. We, that's kind of how things were going, and people knew better than to do certain things. And just on a quick note, we have a twofold problem though with the justice system. Is that one of which is we focus entirely on the punitive, the punishing element of it, without actually giving a lot of people that could be rehabilitatable the skills to not go back to the criminal lifestyle. And then the other part of that, though, is, I mean, we all have, there are so many laws that just don't need to be law, and
That's right.
So it needs to be a fixture of both of those. But when you have judges, I mean, recidivists make up 80 to 90% of all homicides. I mean, look at the rape statistics, and it's just as egregious. If you are allowing somebody to keep getting a slap on the wrist, we need to start figuring out, like, how do we get the judges out of office? Is it voting them out? Is it writing them angry letters and picket signs? I mean, the judges right now, it's not a matter of law enforcement being the problem. It's the judges just letting them right back in the streets.
That is undoubtedly true. I have never talked to a police officer who says that, that they have a lot of kind words for the dream justice, right? Or downstream from them. But up from them in terms of the criminal accountability. They say, we're doing our job. We know who the minority of people in a community are who are likely to produce the most heinous crimes or not so heinous crimes repeatedly. They tell me this over and over and over again. Many of you are or know law enforcement professionals, sheriff deputies, police officers. You tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think so. So there's something wrong with our justice system, but again, they will claim that they're following the law. So is there some accountability on the part of our legislators that provide too much leniency in the mandatory sentencing, for instance? Diddy, what's the guy's name? Idiot Diddy Combs, someone. I don't even.
Sean P. Diddy Combs.
Yeah, I know nothing about the rapper, except it's not healthy. It's not healthy for a culture to celebrate the depravity of your culture. I mean, I don't know. Never forget back in the day when my kids would use this LimeWire thing. I was afraid I was going to get back billed for all this downloading everyone was doing. What was the other one? Anyway. And
Napster,
Napster, I heard some of the lyrics to these songs. I'm like, is that healthy? At any rate, wasn't that the kind of stuff that this guy did? Yeah, did he?
Well, he was
Rapper?
the rap equivalent of Epstein. I mean, they were having all sorts of really gross, exploitatory blackmail, just disgusting,
But I mean,
including minors.
But musically, I mean,
he was a rap guy.
You want music should be aspirational. Frank Sinatra, come fly with me. We'll go down to Peru. We'll get dressed up. It should be aspirational. It shouldn't be to celebrate the struggles that you're having. You might chronicle them, but you should be at any rate. I don't know. I'm getting off track here.
Well, real quick
but
though.
But you're right. We elect the legislators who then promulgate the laws which allow judges who are liberal-minded and who, by the way, usually live in very safe communities. I feel sorry for judges because they've got a target on their back. They're the target of many threats, and I think that's unfortunate. If there's anyone that should be executed summarily, it's someone that attacks a judge or a law enforcement officer. I mean, can we all agree on that? That ought to be quick and simple and like, hey, the Ring camera says it's you. Don't tell me it's self-defense when you execute in cold blood someone. Don't. I love it when defense lawyers say, well, it's a self-defense. Oh yeah, it's self-defense. Right, sure. Tell me how. Defending against what? Being made accountable? Oh, excuse me. But so there's a lot of big players here, but ultimately we as voters need to be making our elected officials accountable and send them clear messages through the ballot box and through regular messaging channels, emails, phone calls, that we expect law and order and public safety before we expect programs for advanced, feminine rainbow studies or masculine put on a dress and be a dude who can go into a women's locker room studies. Enough. Stop funding it until you have shored up and reinforced our law enforcement policies and the people that execute them. Needs to be happening. Well, I guess we've got it about figured out, but we'll need a little more time next week to get there, won't we, Jerome? So we'll be back next week and we'll try to figure out the rest of it. I know it's not that easy. I know it's more complicated, but at a minimum, we need to be more vocal about our expectations of our governance and the importance of safety. Because if you don't feel safe, nothing else follows, including commerce, prosperity, and liberty. That'll wrap it up for this edition of the Tobler Show. Thanks for being with me. Stay tuned for On the Money with Bob and Eric, and then we'll see you next week. Stay tuned with us, too, on @RandyToblerMD on Twitter. Enjoy the podcast later, too, if you missed it. A lot of good stuff happened earlier. Thanks, Jerome. See you next week.
In his bosom that transfigures you and me, as he died to make men holy, let us live to make men free. While God is marching
Hey, Jamie Allman here for Patriot Heating and Cooling. When your home's comfort is